They are innocent. Mu Qingyun nodded. She couldn't help feeling this way as she watched those people scream before their deaths. Long Chen turned serious. You're wrong. I'm going to give you all another lesson right now. When you face your enemies, there is no such thing as innocent people. You pity them now. But if that eruption hadn't occurred, when we fled from them, they would chase us down without hesitation and raise their butcher's blade against us. If we were just killed, then that would be one thing. But the female disciples would have to face a torment worse than death before dying. Do you think that they will let you off because you pity them? Do you think that they will consider you innocent? Are you still in the mood to pity others? Long Chen's gaze grew colder and colder until it sounded absolutely callous and merciless. Hearing this, Mu Qingyun didn't know how to reply. Luo Bing looked at her and said, Long Chen is right. You haven't experienced that kind of cruel slaughter before, so you have no idea about the reality of the cultivation world. You never know just how frightening the dark side of humanity is. Don't think that just because you have no grievance with Chu Kuang that he won't do anything to you. Even if it was just for us, he would kill you to keep you quiet. You lack that foresight because you haven't experienced the cruel battlefield and bloody slaughter. To pity your enemies because of something that hasn't happened yet is very foolish. It will not only harm yourself but also those that trust you. That is why Long Chen is angry with what you just said. Luo Bing and Luo Ning were different from the others. Although they were young and their experiences were limited, the Luo family's teachings toward its disciples were very stringent. Before they set foot into the world of cultivation, the Luo family had shown them the bloody scenes of their fight against the Chu family, as well as the Chu family's endless despicable tricks. Their first lesson in the family was not to have any mercy for their enemies. That would only harm themselves and their family. It might even implicate the entire family. That was why Luo Bing and Luo Ning approved of Long Chen's words. Not ridiculing Mu Qingyun was already being courteous. This was the common sense of the cultivation world, but Mu Qingyun and the others actually didn't understand this. Brother San, I was wrong. Mu Qingyun hastily apologized when she saw Long Chen's expression. Long Chen waved his hand, shaking his head. Perhaps the path of your life so far has been too smooth. That is not a good thing. The sooner you suffer, the better. Otherwise, once you do suffer, it might be so great that you don't even have a chance to absorb the lesson. Long Chen sighed. This was truly a group of flowers that had grown up inside a greenhouse. The world that Long Chen had experienced wasn't something that they could imagine. Sometimes cruel reality was the best teacher, the miracle medicine that could catalyze a person's growth. Long Chen suddenly felt that he might have to thank his overwhelming bad luck for his current accomplishments. That was what had tempered him early on. If he was like these disciples and had grown up in an environment where his safety was guaranteed, perhaps he wouldn't be much stronger than them. Thinking of that, his anger diminished. Seeing Mu Qingyun staring at him, seemingly in fright, he sighed. I'll only tell you this once. I hope you can remember these words in your heart. If you make a mistake in strategic decision-making because you want to be kind, just getting yourself killed would be getting off easy. More likely, you would cause the deaths of the people you care about, and then you'd spend the rest of your life in regret and pain. You can't imagine just how terrifying such a feeling is. Brother San, have you ever made a similar mistake? Asked Mu Qingyun curiously. Long Chen's gaze instantly darkened. He thought of the final battle of the Martial Heaven continent. Although he hadn't really made any mistakes, he still felt like he could have done better. But he wouldn't have that chance. Every time he thought of that, he felt unbearable. It seemed that it had become a heart devil. Brother San's sorry. Seeing that pain in Long Chen's gaze, Mu Qingyun's heart shuddered. She immediately apologized. That gaze was full of pain. It was just a look, but Mu Qingyun felt it clearly. She instantly realized that she had just poked one of Long Chen's scars. Long Chen was about to speak when his expression changed. He turned around, almost in disbelief. Not dead even after all that? Long Chen looked through the flying boat's formation. He saw two figures flying out of the erupting volcano. It was Chu Kuang and the Four-Peak Elder. The elder had a glowing bead in his hand. Its light pierced through the lava. Flame-setting divine bead. No wonder. Long Chen instantly understood when he saw that glowing bead. So the elder had come prepared with a fire attribute treasure. Once activated, it formed a special space around it, protecting whoever was inside from flame energy. However, just as they charged out of the eruption, the flame-setting divine bead exploded. Chu Kuang let out a cry. He was too close to the lava, and his body was instantly set ablaze. The Four-Peak Elder wasn't much better off. His hair was instantly incinerated, leaving him bald. He suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. After that, he waved his hand, and his blood transformed into a strange diagram. The elder then dragged Chu Kuang into the diagram, and the two of them instantly vanished, reappearing far away from the lava. With the elder dragging Chu Kuang along, they instantly vanished. They were all that remained of their party. The rest had been consumed by the lava. How regretful. That little fellow's life is quite tough. Long Chen shook his head. Originally, he had thought that this would be enough to kill them. But they had still escaped. Luo Bing and the others felt a chill. Without even bloodying his blade, Long Chen almost wiped out his enemies. If that Four-Peak Elder hadn't had a flame-setting divine bead, he would probably have been conned to death as well. Now when they looked at Long Chen, there was reverence but also fear. He was truly a frightful existence. Just a single late-stage divine flame expert would be enough to wipe them out, but Long Chen had just killed hundreds of mid- and late-stage divine flame experts. As for the Four-Peak Elder, to them, he was an unreachable existence. They didn't even have the bravery to face him. It could be said that Chu Kuang had definitely brought a huge tool to solve a tiny problem this time. But despite that, he still almost lost his life. Long Chen, I know it might be wrong to ask you this, but I'm really curious. How did you do this? I'm begging you to tell me. Otherwise, I won't be able to die in peace. Luo Ning hesitated a long time before finally being unable to contain her curiosity. Everyone else's ears also perked up. This was the question they all wanted to know the answer to. Even a Four-Peak Elder had been almost killed. How did he do this? Don't look at me. I'm not such a sinister person. How could I do something like harming people from the same academy as me? Long Chen shrugged, acting like the very picture of a good person who absolutely wouldn't do something so evil. I really look down on you. Luo Ning couldn't help cursing at him. For these words to come out of Long Chen's mouth, not even an idiot would believe them. If you have to look down on me, then fine. In any case, I'm a good child. I've never done anything bad. Long Chen shook his head. There were too many people here. Who knew whether or not there were spies amongst them? Such a thing could not be admitted to. That way, no one could do anything to him. The truth was that when he had decided not to take the flame throne, which gave birth to the companion, or he suddenly had a thought. Just because he was unwilling to destroy such a natural treasure didn't mean that others were unwilling as well. He then thought of Chu Kuang. If Chu Kuang came again, he would very likely take this natural treasure. Then wouldn't Long Chen have benefited him? If Long Chen didn't take it but someone else took it, that would definitely irritate him. After a moment's thought, he set up an explosive formation disk below the throne. He knew that the throne was connected to the magma line down below. Otherwise, such a tiny place couldn't possibly give birth to a heavenly flame and its companion or. This cave was nothing more than the tip of the iceberg of the underground magma world. Considering the heat of the lava, this explosive formation disk would stay functional for at most 3 days before losing effect. This whole plan was something that Long Chen had to thank the elder in the Divine Scripture Pavilion for. People should really read more books. Otherwise, he wouldn't have known about the underground magma line nor the time limit for the formation disk's effective power. Reading more books could only be beneficial. He had arranged this before coming up, but he hadn't told anyone. When he saw that Chu Kuang really was returning with others, he almost laughed. This fellow was cooperating with his plan perfectly. The huge explosion was something that even Long Chen hadn't expected. But that Four-Peak Elder had actually managed to escape after that. Now, Long Chen had a clearer understanding of the power of a Four-Peak expert. Luo Bing held Luo Ning back from continuing her line of questioning. The answer to this question was not necessarily something good to know. After a while, Mu Qingyun activated the flying boat, and they flew over Crescent Moon Valley one time. The lava had stopped spurting, but the valley was now submerged. Smoke roiled out of the surroundings, and the immense heat set the mountains ablaze. As the forest around this place possessed powerful life energy, the fire shouldn't spread very far. The mountains in this mountain range that weren't covered in lava should also be fine. They looked at all the destruction and then at Long Chen. Although he refused to admit anything, everyone knew that he had definitely done this. Brother San, big sister Qingyun wants you at the front. Didn't you want to learn how to control the flying boat? Long Chen had his eyes closed, and his mind was in the primal chaos space, watching Hua Long absorb the power of the heavenly flame seed. It was then that Zhong Ling ran over to him. When did I? Oh, I remember. Long Chen suddenly understood. He had never asked to learn how to control the flying boat. But the front of the flying boat was a special space that could block the sound from outside. Long Chen then walked in. It was only Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and Mu Qingyun here. Long Chen knew that his guess was right. What? Are you planning on interrogating me? Have you prepared the torture instruments? Let me tell you, I'm a real man. I'm not afraid of any torture. But if you use a honey trap, I might not be able to resist. Is that what you're planning? Asked Long Chen solemnly. Nice idea. Now there are no outsiders. Tell us what happened, said Luo Ning directly. Then are you saying that everyone here is an insider? Asked Long Chen. His mood was excellent today, good enough for him to start joking. How shameless. Your ambition is quite big. Are you not afraid of dying if you dual cultivate with so many people? Demanded Luo Ning. What's dual cultivation? Why would I die? Long Chen was startled. He was unfamiliar with the concept of dual cultivation in the immortal world. Dual cultivation is dash. Just as Luo Ning was about to explain, Luo Bing pushed her. Foolish girl, he's taking advantage of you. Women can't say such things. There's no saving you. Seeing Zhong Ling, Zhong Xiu, and Mu Qingyun blushing, Long Chen had a general guess about what dual cultivation was. But there had to be some difference between that and normal matters between a man and woman, or there wouldn't be a danger of dying. My primary goal was to penalize those who go to such extremes as to destroy natural wonders. I had no intention of conning anyone. Chu Kuang has done countless evil things, so that was the heavens punishing him. It had nothing to do with me. When Long Chen explained what happened, the five of them laughed. Chu Kuang was truly unlucky. He didn't find who he was looking for nor the heavenly flame seed, but he did almost lose his life. Those disciples that he had brought with him this time were trusted people of the Chu family. Some were directly related to the Chu family, and the others were from subordinate powers. It could be said that the Chu family truly had an enormous network within the High Firmament Academy. For Chu Kuang to have lost so many inner academy disciples this time, he probably would have to give some explanation to the academy. This was no small matter. Furthermore, even if the families of those who had died didn't make a fuss, this loss was enough to keep the Chu family busy for a while. Chu Kuang might even receive a harsh punishment. His luck was truly bad this time. An almost guaranteed plan had been ruined twice due to Long Chen, causing almost complete wipeouts for his side. He himself was badly injured. Luo Ning even guessed that Chu Kuang might just die from anger. She sighed inside. Chu Kuang had tricked everyone with his act, but he hadn't tricked Long Chen. Chu Kuang was truly sinister, but he was also calculating and cautious. Unfortunately, his plans were child's play in front of Long Chen. Long Chen had played him in the palm of his hand and had almost taken his life without even needing to use a blade. Hence, they profoundly felt just how frightening Long Chen was. They blessed their fortune that he was a friend, not an enemy. Otherwise, they would feel like this world had turned dark. When they returned to the High Firmament Academy, as soon as they stepped off of the flying boat, the sky suddenly darkened. Without any warning, a giant net fell upon them. This sudden attack came without any warning. It was a kind of formation. Once it was activated, space instantly froze. Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Mu Qingyun, and the others were enveloped by a ray of divine light. Runes bound them, making them unable to move. As for Longchen, the instant that the light appeared, he instinctively retreated. He had no time to warn the others. The net fell, its strings moving like serpents, wrapping around everyone. Other than Longchen, everyone else was caught. Longchen's heart shook. He suddenly realized that something was off. This was a place where flying boats were constantly coming and going. But now it was empty. He suddenly understood that Chu Kuang's background was even greater than he had expected. Chu Kuang had actually managed to empty such a large and busy space in order to set up a trap for him. The Chu family was actually able to act so brazenly within the God Institute. All of a sudden, a hand silently reached toward Longchen, and a vortex of space appeared around him, slowing him down. This was a terrifying four-peak expert. With space influx, he blocked all of Longchen's escape paths. Longchen was shocked and infuriated. The Chu family really didn't care about any laws or rules. They actually prepared a sneak attack for him here. In the face of this terrifying existence, he couldn't dodge. He either let himself be captured, or he fought with his life on the line. Since the other side dared to attack him so openly here, it was very possible that they intended to kill him as well. Then they would fabricate some accusations against him. As a flame lotus suddenly appeared on Longchen's palm, the locking force lessened against him, and he temporarily regained his freedom. He spun, his hand slamming toward his back. He then managed to see his attacker. It was a gloomy elder who had triangular eyes and a face covered in pockmarks. The elder was surprised to see that Longchen was able to move under his pressure. Just at that moment, the lotus flower on Longchen's palm flew off. Boom! Flames exploded, unleashing giant ripples in space. After that, heat ignited the air. Longchen felt like his hand had struck hard iron. His palm quivered painfully, and his wrist was dislocated. An immense force then sent him flying. As for the pockmarked elder, he was forced back 3 steps in the air. His palm was ignited by the flames and the sharp pain shocked him. Old bastard, just wait. Longchen's sleeve had been blasted apart. Everyone could see rage and killing intent blazing in his eyes. You slaughtered fellow members of the academy. Now you're offending your superiors as well, refusing to submit to your trial. There is no saving you. You can simply die. The pockmarked elder also had killing intent in his eyes. He stepped toward Longchen. However, just as he moved, lightning erupted beneath Longchen's feet, and he jumped onto the flying boat. The door hadn't been closed because normally there were people guarding the flying boats to prevent anyone without permission from taking them. Longchen rushed to the control panel and slammed his hand on a red button. You dare! Countless runes lit up on the flying boat, making the elder's expression completely change. Longchen was actually unleashing all the power of the flying boat into a single attack. However, that attack wasn't aimed at him but at the transportation formation. Is there anything in this world that Boss Long San doesn't dare to do? As Longchen spoke, a ray of light shot out of the flying boat straight toward the transportation formation. Boom! The transportation formation instantly exploded. Rubble and fragmented runes flew through the air. This kind of minor transportation formation was so common in the academy that they numbered in the thousands. They were provided to the disciples to save time coming and going through the academy. They didn't have much defensive power, so it was instantly destroyed. The instant that the formation was destroyed, the entire academy shuddered. Alarms rang out. Just an instant later, the void twisted and countless figures appeared. The High Firmament Academy's transportation formations were all connected to a grand formation underground. With one destroyed, the alarm instantly drew the experts of the academy. These experts emitted terrifying auras. In front of them, these disciples were as insignificant as ants. It was like a single gaze from them could wipe the disciples out. So the High Firmament Academy's foundation is truly frightening. Even Longchen was shocked. The people that were appearing were all exceedingly terrifying existences above this four-peak elder. Furthermore, they all looked to still be middle-aged with powerful blood chi. They were like kings looking down on them. These experts had grave and serious expressions as if they were prepared to face powerful enemies. They were already ready for battle, but when they looked around, they didn't see any powerful enemies. They only saw a group of trapped outer academy disciples. "What is going on here?" demanded one of them. He gloomily glared at the pockmarked elder. His tone was not at all courteous. Instead, it seemed enraged. "Senior," it was Dash. The pockmarked elder was also terrified. He pointed at Long Chen, casting the responsibility onto him. "I was the one who broke the transportation formation and drew seniors of the Battle God Palace out. I know that seniors are busy fighting in the Devil Domain, and I know that those who are resting in the academy are recuperating from their wounds. I shouldn't disturb your recuperation, but there is someone so despicable that he is ignoring the academy's rules to kill me and then cover it up. My cultivation base is too low to beat this bastard, but I'm also unwilling to just be killed. Thus, I could only come up with such a plan to make this matter bigger and have the higher-ups handle it and find justice for me." Long Chen cupped his fists toward the man. That man was startled, and he stared at Long Chen closely. He saw Long Chen's tattered black robes, as well as the instructor plate on his waist. Such a combination was curious. He suddenly laughed and nodded. "I understand. Senior, don't listen to his nonsense. He slaughtered innocent members of the academy." The pockmarked elder was shocked to hear such a thing. He knew just how terrifying these people's statuses were. If they believed Long Chen, then things would be over for him. "Shut up." Another person in the air shouted, "Do you think that we're as blind as you? We're already clear on what kind of person this little fellow is, because we're all the same." Mu Qingyun and the others were still unable to move, but they were stunned to see such powerful experts descend. These terrifying existences said that Long Chen was the same as them? What was that? "Where is the head of the Discipline Institute? Come out!" shouted that person, his voice resounding throughout the academy. That person's voice was like thunder through the air. Echoes continued to ring out, spreading further and further. With such a huge disturbance, countless experts of the God Institute were rushing over. But when they saw those experts in the air, they all had reverent expressions. Suddenly, the void shuddered and a figure appeared. This was also a middle-aged man, but one of his sleeves blew in the breeze. He was missing an arm. The pockmarked elder's expression suddenly grew exceedingly ugly. He was filled with terror. Others might not recognize the middle-aged man, but he knew that this was the head judge of the Discipline Institute. Other than the institute head, he was the one with the greatest authority in the Discipline Institute. There were 3 positions below the institute head with the greatest authority. If there was a major trial, the 3 of them could make a decision that could even overturn the institute head's opinion. This person was the head of those 3 positions. His status was extremely high, but he came out with just a roar from one of these experts. "Junior brother Wang Chong greets senior apprentice brother Zhan Feng," said the head judge, bowing toward that man. It seemed as if the 2 were old acquaintances. That Zhan Feng looked at the head judge, and a trace of sorrow appeared in his eyes. "Brother, after just a few years, the sharpness in your eyes has vanished. It's painful thinking of the days we fought alongside each other." The head judge nodded. "Cultivating is like rowing a boat against the flow. If you don't advance, you recede. I've managed to fully expel the devil poison over these years, but my Dao heart is already covered in dust. I can no longer regain my old sharpness. But seeing all my senior apprentice brothers as fierce as ever is comforting." Zhan Feng walked over to the head judge and patted his shoulder forcefully. "It's all right. There are millions of paths in life. Every single one can manifest different wonders. I called you today because of this junior brother's matter. I trust that you will be able to exact a fair accounting for this. The battle in the Devil Domain is pressing, and we have to leave soon. I also wanted to see you before leaving. Who knows whether or not any of us will live to return. I'm glad to have seen you again." The Devil Domain. The head judge was startled. Zhan Feng raised his hand. "This isn't the place to talk about it. I leave things here to you." "Senior apprentice brother Zhan Feng, be at ease," promised the head judge. Zhan Feng nodded. After that, his figure vanished, reappearing in front of Long Chen. He looked at him, his gaze as sharp as a sword. It was as if he could see through a person's soul. "Your sword? It is rusty. Perhaps it's a kind of settling. But the corrosion will not reach my true heart, replied Long Chen. Zhan Feng nodded. With a faint smile, he also patted Long Chen's shoulder. A real man doesn't need to learn how to conceal their light. The stronger you are, the more responsibility you bear. Junior brother, don't slack. Grow up quickly. A dragon must soar. How can it muddle with a bunch of mudfish? Junior brother understands. Long Chen nodded. This Zhan Feng was a true expert, just like the divine lightning elder. He was an expert that had killed his way out of mountains of corpses. This was why they were the same. This was why when Long Chen asked for their help, they directly called out the head judge. Zhan Feng nodded, and his figure vanished once more. The other experts then cupped their fists toward the head judge and also left. One of them said to Long Chen, "Junior brother, don't waste time here. Men should go to an even more marvelous world." They all vanished just like that, stunning the disciples. To vanish into the void, that was spatial energy. Even four-peak experts weren't capable of it. What is going on? The head judge's gaze swept over the crowd and fell onto the pockmarked elder. Reporting, this junior received a report that Long Chen maliciously slaughtered hundreds of disciples from the academy. His crimes are cruel and endless. This junior set up a trap here to capture him in order to investigate this matter clearly. Said the pockmarked elder. Tell the truth. Was it to capture and investigate, or to kill and keep the truth quiet? The dead can't testify, right? Sneered Long Chen. How dare you spout your nonsense here? As an elder of the Discipline Institute, I don't even have the authority to punish you. How could I kill you? Raged the elder. What a joke. When did the Discipline Institute start acting so sneakily? Said Long Chen disdainfully. This matter is too big, and you can't be allowed to run away after committing such crimes. The Discipline Institute would be blamed for such a thing, quibbled the pockmarked elder. Even as the two of them made their statements, the head judge simply listened, not saying anything. Because this matter is too big? Do you take me for a fool? You dare to lie in front of the head judge? Demanded Long Chen scornfully. How did I lie? All you do is slander others to cover up for yourself. Raged the pockmarked elder. But this rage was faked, since Long Chen saw terror in his eyes. That made him confident. Since Zhan Feng had left things to the head judge, the latter would definitely make an impartial ruling. The pockmarked elder's panicked way of casting suspicion off of himself was enough to show that this was not part of his expectations. Long Chen sneered inside. As expected, this kind of person didn't have much intelligence. They were truly mudfish. When fighting with them, victory didn't mean anything. It was nothing worth being proud of. Hence, Zhan Feng didn't wish for Long Chen to waste his precious time on them. However, Long Chen knew himself. In the immortal world, he had no backer and no foundation, so he had to build a solid foundation first. He had no one in the immortal world that he could trust, so he had to rely on himself for everything. Only once he had made a solid foundation for himself could he truly reveal his sharpness. Otherwise, a large tree with no roots would only be in greater danger the bigger it grew. A single gust of wind would rip it up. Now was not the time to reveal himself. You say that I'm slandering you. Then let me ask you, since capturing people is the job of the Law Enforcement Hall, when did it become the duty of the Discipline Institute to directly attack others? Is that part of the rules? Don't say that there wasn't enough time to report it. Your only responsibility is to report it. Whether or not the Law Enforcement Hall can do their job is entirely outside of your jurisdiction and not your responsibility. Normally, your Discipline Institute is so inefficient that you barely keep up. Why is it that you're in such a rush when it comes to me? Is it that you're willing to go all out after getting paid off by Chu Kuang? Sneered Long Chen. You're simply slandering others. The pockmarked elder's face turned purple. The head judge's presence put him under immense pressure, and all the fear inside of him was dragged out by Long Chen. It was clear to everyone. Tell Chu Kuang to come. We're opening the first grade trial hall. The head judge's expression was cold. His orders caused a resounding bell to ring throughout the God Institute. The sound of that bell caused the terror in the pockmarked elder's eyes to grow even denser. His body even began to quiver. The first-grade trial hall was rarely activated in the God Institute. It had been decades since the last time. Only extremely important trials were conducted here. And in order to hold a trial here, the head judge and the other 2 magistrates must attend. Furthermore, the first-grade trial hall was not just open to the God Institute but also to anyone within the High Firmament Academy. They could all watch justice be carried out. At this moment, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Mu Qingyun, and the others all arrived with Long Chen. They instantly felt a harsh and solemn air pour over them. Looking from outside, the first-grade trial hall looked to only be a few hundred meters wide. But upon entering, it was a giant space. As soon as they entered, they saw 2 sacred statues. The 2 statues were thousands of meters tall. They were 2 dignified elders. One held a book, while the other held a ruler. The ruler had a scale carved into it, and it emitted a sharp air that gave people chills. Both the book and ruler were covered in countless runes, and every rune was like a mirror that reflected the wickedness inside a person's heart. As soon as they entered this place, the Unfettered Alliance's disciples grew pale. They found it difficult to breathe here. Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and Mu Qingyun were a bit better off. They only felt a bit of pressure. As for Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu, they seemed to not feel anything. Looking at Li Kai covered in sweat, Long Chen cursed, "Just look at your morality. With just a glance, it's clear that you've done quite a few shameful things." These 2 statues possessed the power to question the inner heart. Even before those runes were fully activated, they possessed this power. If they were activated, it would be very difficult for anyone to lie in front of them. "Boss San, have you never done anything bad?" Li Kai couldn't help asking when he saw Long Chen was completely at ease. "I've done plenty of bad things," said Long Chen indifferently. "Then Boss San, how can you resist the pressure of the divine statues? Can you teach us? Otherwise, I'm afraid." Li Kai and the others were all uneasy. These 2 statues were like heavenly executioners. Once the questioning started, they were afraid that every bad thing that they had ever done since their childhood would be exposed. "I've already told you, if you're going to do bad things, just don't make it go against your own morals. Doing bad things isn't bad. As long as you don't do them to good people, it's fine. That's why I've done countless bad things, but my heart is still at peace," said Long Chen. "Damn." Long Chen's heart suddenly shuddered. When he walked into the center of the hall, the space around him changed, and he saw tens of thousands of people sitting there. There was a sea of people. Furthermore, all of these people had high status in the academy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be qualified to be here. Those tens of thousands of people were all silent. The only sound was Long Chen and the others' footsteps. Li Kai and the others were all pale. They had never experienced such a thing. Every single person watching was a giant figure to them. In fact, some disciples could spend years in the academy cultivating without having a chance to meet a single one of them. Li Kai suddenly felt like his legs were no longer his own. He forgot how to walk. Long Chen clapped him on the back of his head and cursed, "Are you getting a seizure? What are you doing? If the heavens collapse, I will hold them up. What are you so nervous about? Don't you dare tell others in the future that I taught you, or I'll be ashamed." Only once he spoke did he realize that this place had a special formation to transmit his voice throughout the crowd. Everyone heard him. The surrounding people stared at him, dumbfounded. Even in such a grave setting, Long Chen was still so unrestrained. The rumors they had heard about him seemed accurate. However, some of them also felt a new level of respect for him. This trial room didn't just have the divine statues with the ability to question a person's heart, but there were also so many experts staring at them. An ordinary person couldn't remain as calm as Long Chen. Li Kai and the others finally relaxed when they arrived at their own seats at the center. They could finally sit. Only Long Chen, the main character, walked straight forward to the end. Being at the front, he saw 3 eye-catching positions. The center position was the largest, most imposing one. He sat down there. But as soon as he did, the deathly silent room erupted. "Long Chen, that's not our seat." Luo Bing waved at Long Chen. She had actually gestured to him about where to go, but he hadn't paid any attention to it. "Oh!" Before Long Chen even had a chance to stand, 3 beams of light appeared. A white-robed elder then showed up in each of the chairs beside him. After that, in front of him appeared the head judge. He stared at Long Chen oddly. "Oh, I'm sorry." Only then did Long Chen come to a realization that he might be in the wrong spot. He got up and ran over to Luo Bing's side. "You really are a fool. Are you trying to fight over the position of the head judge?" Luo Ning stared at him speechlessly. This fellow was completely undependable. If they ended up offending the head judge, they would truly be doomed. "Can you blame me? It's not like their names are written on them," grumbled Long Chen. "As the plaintiff, wouldn't it make sense for his seat to be different? Are you a pig? That seat is so high and wide. Is your butt that big? Even if you used your foot to think, wouldn't it be obvious that that's not our spot?" demanded Luo Ning. "Are you saying that whoever butts bigger has a bigger say in the academy? Then according to your logic, the Great Dean will definitely be even wider, so wide that he might not even fit through the door dash," scoffed Long Chen. Even before he was done speaking, Luo Bing covered his mouth. Despite being a refined woman, she had an urge to sew Long Chen's mouth up. The two of them had actually forgotten that everything they were saying during their argument was being transmitted clearly to everyone's ears. Long Chen had actually even drawn the dean into it. That was practically an insult to the dean. The onlookers were turned into wooden puppets by Long Chen's words. This little fellow truly had guts. He even dared to talk nonsense about the dean? The head judge's expression also grew odd and then casually glanced at an unremarkable spot. After that, his face grew severe. "If you dare to spout nonsense in the trial hall, you will be expelled from the academy." Long Chen was immediately at ease to hear that. He was grateful to him inside. The head judge was going to brush this matter away. "Hold it." Long Chen insulted the dean. "He has damaged the prestige of the High Firmament Academy. According to the rules, he needs at least 50 lashes of the fire whip." "Head judge, are you being biased?" shouted one of the magistrates to the side. He was an elder with a large scar on his face. Long Chen narrowed his eyes, instantly guessing that this old fellow was part of the Chu family's people. He also understood why the head judge would cause such a giant ruckus over this matter. Thinking of that, he smiled. It seemed that a good show was about to start. Before the head judge could say anything, Long Chen sneered, "When did I insult the dean?" Just what kind of figure was Long Chen? What kind of play had he not seen before? This old fellow's hostility toward him was already crystal clear to him. "Shut up. This is the trial hall. When we haven't permitted you to speak, you cannot randomly interject yourself," barked the other elder. It wasn't just one but two. The Chu family was truly powerful. Long Chen was surprised. Luo Bing pulled on Long Chen, indicating to him to calm down. As long as he didn't leave evidence to be used against him, this could pass easily. But if he was provoked into beating people here, no one could save him. However, Long Chen ignored her prompting. Looking at the elder, he sneered, "You're joking. This is the trial hall, but has the head judge announced that the trial has started? Since the trial hasn't started, why can't others talk?" "What? Because your butt is bigger, only you can let out farts but others can't talk?" Long Chen. Luo Bing turned pale with fright. Long Chen's guts were so big that he even dared to call out this elder. It had to be known that those two elders were magistrates, a position that was only the slightest bit lower than the head judge's. Long Chen dared to call his words farts? He was intentionally antagonizing him? They really were doomed now. Luo Bing and Luo Ning shuddered. Did Long Chen not want his life anymore? Despite knowing not to laugh and suppressing it quickly, a few awkward chuckles rang out from the observers. Although it was quickly pulled back, the atmosphere grew extremely odd. Those who had come here were all those with extremely high statuses. But with just a few words, Long Chen cajoled them into laughter. "How brazen, Long Chen! You dare to insult me?" raged the elder. He was just about to pronounce him guilty. "Give it up. The trial hasn't even started. Our statuses are the same right now. According to the Academy's rules, Chapter 7 of the trial section, the 21st clause and the 9th paragraph, clearly states, all trials will be impartial. The law is equally applied to all people. No one may provoke the trial judge's dignity. Those who use insulting language will have their skin flayed as a warning. Outside of the trial, all people are equal with equal rights. Punishment cannot be carried out due to anger or selfish reasons. Long Chen began to recite an entire section of the rulebook. The experts present were surprised. Long Chen was actually so clear on the Academy's rules, hence, their respect for him rose. Through this, those two elders' expressions sank. Not one of Long Chen's words was off. This exceeded their expectations. It had to be known that the laws of the Academy were not a mandatory lesson for disciples. Let alone a newcomer like Long Chen, even some elders were not so clear on these convoluted laws. The rules were mandatory lessons to everyone, but the laws were different, especially some laws like the finer details of how trials were carried out. Only a few people knew of these things. The only reason that all the experts present knew that Long Chen was correct was due to the expression of those two elders. Seeing their shock, Long Chen sneered inside. He had known that spending that time reading about these laws would come in useful in the future. In the Divine Scripture Pavilion, Long Chen had specifically read through the God Institute's laws just to avoid unwittingly falling into someone else's trap. He also foresaw that he would be a regular of the trial hall. As expected, he could now use what he had learned here. All right, the trial has not formally started. You can freely defend your point, said the elder without any anger. However, he then coldly said, that doesn't change that it is an incontestable fact that you insulted the dean. What do you say to that? Long Chen suddenly stood and pointed at the elder righteously. As a magistrate, you must use neutral language and not pass judgment before trial. You can't look at things from your personal point of view but from a spectator's point of view. Only then can you be neutral and clearly distinguish right and wrong. But you immediately started using accusatory language and arguing with me. That shows that you already view me as guilty before the trial has even begun. You must first apologize to me, otherwise, I will report to the dean that the Discipline Institute's magistrates have gravely failed to live up to their duty. Their job is to find justice, but they act with injustice, ruining the very foundation of the High Firmament Academy. Long Chen continued with a lengthy description, his mouth like a torrent. Even the slip of a single word had caused this elder to be described by Long Chen as a spy trying to topple the academy. Hence, the elder was green with anger. He had never dreamed that a youngster could be so difficult to deal with. Just due to a word, he was caught. Head judge, according to the God Institute's laws, if a plaintiff meets unjust circumstances while defending themselves, in order to avoid any miscarriage of justice, they have the right to ask for a higher-level trial. This old fellow has determined that I'm guilty before the trial has even begun. If he does not apologize to me, I will immediately demand a change in the trial. I ask that the head judge help me apply for this. Long Chen cupped his fists toward the head judge. The head judge's expression didn't change, but there was a trace of admiration in his eyes. He also hadn't expected Long Chen to be so tough. There were several times that he wanted to laugh, but he managed to endure it. On the other hand, the other two wore extremely ugly expressions, especially the one whose mouth had ended up catching himself. He wanted to crush Long Chen in his palm. However, Long Chen was familiar with the Academy's laws, and he was truly correct. According to those laws, he had the right to switch trials. There was only one person higher than them in the Discipline Institute. It was not the institute head, it was the dean. If this matter disturbed the dean, the consequences would be unimaginable. Hence, the elder thickened his face, stood, and bowed ever so slightly to Long Chen. I was wrong. Due to your words offending the dean that I respect most in my heart, I said some regrettable words. I apologize. Mu Qingyun, Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and the other disciples of the Unfettered Alliance were dumbstruck, unable to believe what they were seeing. Long Chen had actually forced that high and lofty magistrate to bow and apologize to him? Had the world gone mad, or had they? Fine, since you're so sincere, I won't quibble with you. Long Chen waved his hand like a magnanimous person who wouldn't quibble with a petty little person. He then returned to his own seat. Everyone was staring at him. They didn't recall a single case in history where a first-grade trial had forced a magistrate to bow and apologize to the plaintiff. After the elder finished his bow, he stood straight once more. His face instantly became harsh. Like a completely different person, he shouted, "Long Chen, you insulted the dean. How do you explain that?" His face changed faster than the flipping of a book. The elder was filled with fury inside, and his gaze seemed like he wished to cut Long Chen to pieces. He had previously left an opening for Long Chen to grasp. Now that this matter was over, he returned to his normal appearance, pointing out Long Chen's previous words. Long Chen had grabbed hold of his slip-up and refused to let go. Now it was his turn. It was as if he personally wanted to whip Long Chen. "I insulted the dean? Don't slander people." "When did I insult the dean?" demanded Long Chen. That aggrieved expression looked so believable that people almost fell for it. "You're absolutely shameless. Have you already forgotten what you just said?" The magistrate almost coughed up blood. Long Chen's skill in playing the fool was actually quite high. "What are you talking about?" asked Long Chen. "The dean's butt is big," shouted the magistrate. "Is saying it an insult to the dean? You said it too just now. Are you also guilty?" retorted Long Chen disdainfully. The elder almost coughed up blood again. He had once more fallen for Long Chen's trap. Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu finally let out a laugh. The two of them had been holding back a long time, but they finally couldn't endure any longer. Seeing that elder's infuriated appearance, their laughter escaped. The elder's face was red and his neck was thick from anger. Mu Qingyun immediately grabbed the two of them and covered their mouths. But their laughter had already escaped, so covering their mouths didn't stop that from ringing out. Furthermore, some laughter continued to occasionally leak out from the gaps. This cover-up only made it worse. Seeing their bodies trembling with suppressed laughter, Mu Qingyun was angry, anxious, and embarrassed. Respected magistrate, they didn't do it on purpose. Mu Qingyun hastily apologized upon seeing the elder's reaction. His face was black with rage. It actually looked like it was going to leak out of his skin. "Long Chen, don't play the fool. Answer my question directly." "The answer is the answer. What about it?" "Again, I never insulted the great dean," said Long Chen. "This reason is unable to convince anyone," shouted the elder. "You want a reason? It's simple. Answer me directly. If I say that our dean's chest is big, is that an insult?" asked Long Chen. "Of course not." "What about his hands are big?" "No." "His feet are big?" "No." "Then why would his butt being big count as an insult? The hands and feet are all parts of the body. The butt is the same. If the hands and feet don't count, then why would the butt count?" asked Long Chen. Silence rang out. Luo Bing, Luo Ning, Mu Qingyun, and the others stared at Long Chen in wonder. Such an insult had actually been turned into nothing by his quibbling. The elder was at a loss for words, not knowing how to reply. If he agreed, then there would be no way of punishing Long Chen. If he disagreed, then that would be slapping his own face. He had fallen for Long Chen's trap once again. Before he could think of what to say, Long Chen continued, "The hands and feet don't count because they are always exposed. But you feel like the butt is insulting because our butts are always covered. Just due to this cover, its essence has changed in people's minds, making people think that exposing it is something shameful. But if you were to wear your underwear anywhere else, its essence would also change over time. For example, some people act like emperors sitting far above people, looking proper, but constantly doing improper things just because they are wearing their underwear on their face, causing their eyes to turn red and their hearts to turn black. Then they become so foolish that they can't even differentiate between the face and the butt." These words might be crass, but they also had a deeper meaning. The onlookers were surprised that a youngster could have such insight. Not only did he easily escape the matter of the big butt, but he was clearly indicating that by targeting him, the magistrate had torn down his own facade, revealing his butt for all to see. The magistrate quivered with rage, but his head was empty. He didn't know what to say. As a magistrate, he was always the one asking questions, while others answered. It had been a long time since he had gone through verbal sparring. As for Long Chen, he was skilled in all kinds of fighting. Fighting with fists, he could beat you until you knelt and begged for mercy. Fighting with words, he could curse you until you were lost and bewildered. Li Kai and the others almost prostrated themselves toward him. The longer they knew him, the more they felt him to be worthy of worship. They originally surrendered themselves to his terrifying combat power, but the longer they were with him, the more they found that any aspect of Long Chen's would be enough for them to learn from for a lifetime. They realized that this was the definition of a genius. Suddenly, clapping rang out from a corner of the hall. A white-haired elder with a straw hat covering his face was sitting there. Only his long facial hair was revealed. Others started to clap along with him until the entire hall was filled with clapping. The two magistrates' expressions grew exceedingly ugly. The elder with the scar on his face slammed his gavel, shouting, "Silence!" The hall gradually returned to calm. However, those two elders no longer possessed the air of magistrates. As for the head judge, he was sitting there as if nothing had happened. Long Chen smiled. It seemed that everyone was at least somewhat aware of these two old fellows' matters. That was why they encouraged him upon seeing how flustered they were. It seemed that the two of them had offended quite a few people. All right, the discussion on Long Chen's previous words ends here. Let us get to the main topic. Everyone stand. We are formally starting the trial, announced the head judge solemnly. As he stood, everyone else did as well, even all the onlookers. The atmosphere instantly grew serious. Just at this moment, the two divine statues' runes slowly lit up. The entire trial hall was bathed in a sacred light. At the same time, the position of the magistrates and head judge rose, forming an arched platform. A dignified air then settled throughout the hall. The magistrates and the head judge bowed toward the two divine statues before slowly sitting back down in their positions. The head judge solemnly shouted, "Chu Kuang, Chu Yishan, Yi Ming, enter the trial hall." Mu Qingyun suddenly reached out and grabbed Long Chen's hand. She wrote into his palm, "Why are Chu Kuang and the others brought in at a different time than us?" With the suppression of the divine statues, they were unable to communicate spiritually. This was to prevent people on the trial from secretly colluding. However, they were incapable of communicating spiritually even without the suppression of those runes. Hence, Mu Qingyun used this method to communicate. Otherwise, even a whisper would be heard by all. Long Chen smiled and gave her a thumbs up for this smart idea. He wrote into her hand. According to the laws, those determined to be guilty appear afterward so that they are under greater mental pressure. The trial isn't over. How did they determine that they're guilty? Asked Mu Qingyun. So many people died, and he was the one who brought them out. How could he not be guilty? If everyone that I brought out died, I would also have to bear the responsibility. Even if it was someone else intentionally harming me, I must bear some responsibility for the dead, replied Long Chen. Mu Qingyun clapped her forehead. She suddenly recalled that there was truly such a rule in the academy. This was precisely why hunting parties required a certain number of people, equipment, and information on the terrain. That way, if there were casualties, the leader of the group would not be blamed. However, if people were to simply leave on their own accord and casualties appeared, then the leader would bear responsibility for it. Because Mu Qingyun had never led people out for personal reasons, she had forgotten this rule. Now that she thought of this, she looked at Long Chen gratefully. Long Chen had actually been willing to risk bearing responsibility for this, but he had never said anything. Seeing the two of them writing on each other's hands, Luo Ning's mouth curled. She reached out to Mu Qingyun's other hand and intentionally made it so that Long Chen could see what she was writing. Shameless. Long Chen looked at her. So she had actually taken such a matter as him taking advantage of Mu Qingyun. Long Chen smiled at Luo Ning and wrote a few words in the air. Due to how messy he wrote it, she couldn't see clearly. He repeated it, but she frowned, still unable to comprehend. Long Chen then extended his hand, indicating for her to give her hand to him so that he could write on it. Hence, Luo Ning extended her hand. Long Chen solemnly grabbed her hand and rubbed her fingers, the back of her hand, and the palm several times. After a long time, Luo Ning was still waiting to see what he was doing. Luo Bing couldn't bear watching any longer and nudged Luo Ning. Only then did Luo Ning see Long Chen's evil smile. She immediately retracted her hand and glared at him furiously. Long Chen wrote a few words in the air to her. Now she understood what he was trying to say. You misunderstood me before. I'll show you what true shamelessness is. Luo Ning was enraged, feeling like she had been duped. But even as she opened her mouth, Luo Bing covered it. Long Chen smiled and returned to his own seat. Suddenly, a black thing passed by him. When he looked more closely, he jumped out of his seat. What is that? 3 people had walked into the trial hall just as Long Chen and the others were communicating secretly. No, more accurately, 2 had walked in, while another one was being carried by the other 2. The one who made Long Chen jump was someone who looked like he was made of coal. His mouth, nose, and ears were gone. His barren head only had a pair of eyes glaring at Long Chen like a viper. You're Long Chen, sit down, shouted the magistrate. Only then did Long Chen sit down. Looking at that charcoal, from his gaze, Long Chen realized that it was Chu Kuang. The current Chu Kuang wasn't arrogant at all. He had been turned into a puppet that couldn't even move, he couldn't even sit. He had to be leaned against the chair. Long Chen almost laughed. It seemed that while the flame-setting divine bead had saved his life, it had cost quite a bit. What he didn't know was that when Chu Kuang was underground, the elder he had brought with him was Chu Yishan, and the latter had immediately activated the flame-setting divine bead when the explosion occurred, but they were rather unlucky. They ended up stuck in a crack, while the torrent of lava exploded. That torrent kept them sitting in a small corner for a long time. This resulted in the power of the flame-setting divine bead being used up. At that point, even a 4-peak expert would be killed. Chu Yishan was part of the Chu family, and in the end, had managed to charge into the torrent with the last bit of the flame-setting divine bead's protection, allowing him and Chu Kuang to fly out. However, the explosive power was too great. Although they managed to succeed in the end, a huge amount of fire poison had entered their bodies. Chu Yishan was a 4-peak expert, so he was able to resist it. But Chu Kuang couldn't. Even after escaping, Chu Kuang had lost half of his life. If it weren't for Chu Yishan bringing him back to the academy promptly so that he could be healed, he really would have been crippled. Although his life was saved, the fire poison couldn't be rapidly expelled. He had to endure the pain of the fire poison coursing through his veins every day, while he was also turned into his current coal-like state. That was the result of the fire poison igniting his body. What was outside of his body could be considered the ashes of the burning of his body. It was like there was a pile of wood within his body that he couldn't extinguish. If he extinguished it, then the flame of his life would also be put out. The only method was to let the fire poison burn itself out, but he also had to heal the rest of his body as it burned in order to protect the core. That was the only way to expel the fire poison, but it was also the most painful way. Mu Qingyun also jumped in shock when she saw Chu Kuang's current state. She hadn't expected the insufferably arrogant Chu Kuang to be turned into a human stick. Luo Ning was smiling to her heart's content. This feeling was even better than killing Chu Kuang. To have just escaped from calamity, even if you survive, there must be some suffering. Congratulations, congratulations. Long Chen cupped his fists toward Chu Kuang's malicious gaze. Flames almost exploded out of Chu Kuang's eyes. He had almost lost his life just now. Even at this moment, he didn't know how it had happened. This blow was truly great. During the trial, you may not privately speak to each other. You get a warning for the first infraction, but the second infraction will result in the fire whip, barked the scarred elder. Long Chen curled his lips. He naturally knew that the first offense was just a warning, which was why he intentionally provoked Chu Kuang. Only a fool would do it a second time. The trial had officially started, so Long Chen reserved his own emotions. Now, these 2 old ghosts were waiting for a chance to blame him, and he couldn't give them that chance. It's time for both sides to narrate what happened. Long Chen, you go first, said the head judge. My mouth is stiff at the moment. I'll send a representative. Long Chen couldn't be bothered to talk about such things. Outrageous. You have repeatedly insulted this trial, completely ignoring the Academy's laws. Do you really need to be punished before you'll start acting properly? Shouted the magistrate that had previously apologized to Long Chen. Long Chen looked at him and curled his mouth. According to the Academy's own laws, the 6th chapter of the trial section, 3rd clause, 5th paragraph, someone in a trial who is unwell, not in a good mental state, or other reasons that affect their narrative ability, can assign someone else as a representative. Oh, great magistrate, you don't even know about this law? Do you really feel good sitting in that position? Do you even care about your butt? Long Chen gazed at him disdainfully. This fellow really was an idiot. Long Chen didn't know if he had just forgotten all the laws he was supposed to know or if he just thought that Long Chen wouldn't know this one. You dare to insult me? You don't place any of these traditions in your eyes. The High Firmament Academy's laws are not to be disgraced by you, shouted the magistrate. How did I insult you? We've discussed it before. The butt is just part of the body. It doesn't count as an insult. Even the dean didn't quibble over this matter, so why are you shouting? What? Do you think that your butt is even bigger than the dean's? Sneered Long Chen. Even the head judge frowned. How was it that they somehow ended up looping back to this topic? Long Chen once more managed to pull in the dean, as well as the butt. Silence. You may not bring up the dean's name another time. This is a kind of disrespect to his old face, said the head judge. All right, I admit I used the wrong word just now. I switched the face with the butt. Furthermore, facing a magistrate, I should use the proper honorifics. Long Chen cupped his fists toward the magistrate. Great respected magistrate, you don't even know about this law? Do you really feel good sitting in that position? Do you even care about your face? The magistrate quivered with fury and wanted to claw Long Chen, but his claw had struck an iron nail. Long Chen was too familiar with the laws of the Academy. It seemed that he was even more familiar with them than the magistrate was. The magistrate shouted, "This clause is correct, but you're perfectly fine. Why aren't you able to testify yourself?" I was perfectly fine before, but then I encountered someone with a disagreeable mouth. The crap he spouted injured me deeply, so I will have my friend take my place. How did that become looking down on the court and the High Firmament Academy's laws? You're once more accusing me of crazy things. Sorry, but I'm not able to accept such accusations. I need to rest. What's wrong with having someone who witnessed everything testify in my place? Great magistrate, if there is a problem, please tell us all. If such a thing truly constitutes looking down on the Academy's laws, I am willing to submit to my punishment. Please, start your performance. Long Chen gestured to the magistrate, indicating for him to start. You. The magistrate couldn't say a word back, so he furiously gnashed his teeth. Long Chen's tongue was a weapon in its own right. The magistrate already felt like he had been slashed by 1,000 sabers, his body covered in wounds. According to the law, Long Chen has the right to have someone speak for him. However, Long Chen, you only get one chance to testify. Once you're done telling your side, you won't be qualified to interject in someone else's testimony of your own accord, nor will you have a chance to add anything, warned the head judge. That's fine. I, Long Chen, have never done anything that cannot be spoken of. I also disdain lying, said Long Chen indifferently. All right, then you can start, said the head judge. Long Chen looked back. Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and Mu Qingyun instantly tensed, especially Luo Ning. She didn't know whether or not Long Chen would pick her. You. Long Chen then pointed at her, causing her heart to clench. It was fine for her to talk in her normal manner at other times, but in this situation she felt like her throat had closed. The world was spinning around her, so she clenched her teeth and slowly stood. I'm not talking about you. With your clumsy mouth and how you treat me, who knows whether or not you'll sell me out. I'm talking about the one behind you, said Long Chen, pointing behind Luo Ning. Luo Ning turned around to see Li Kai. Li Kai's jaw dropped, and he couldn't believe his own ears. Long Chen was actually calling on him to testify. Li Kai nervously stood up, his forehead already shiny with sweat. He had never been in such a situation. How long are you planning on shaking? You aren't even capable of lying in this kind of situation. Just answer whatever they ask. No one is interested in all the immoral things you did before. Long Chen kicked him in the butt, sending him forward. Li Kai stumbled onto the stand. "What's your name?" demanded the scarred magistrate. "Guess." Li Kai's voice shuddered. This time, Long Chen didn't mishear. In his nervousness, Li Kai wasn't able to pronounce his own name properly, just like when he had introduced himself to Long Chen. "Brazen!" The scarred magistrate was enraged. Long Chen was already so arrogant, but now his subordinate actually dared to challenge him as well. Even the others were astonished. Were all of Long Chen's subordinates so brave? "I'm surnamed Li. My given name is Kai. Together, it's Li Kai." Li Kai was so nervous that he had even forgotten how he had said that he would report his name with the characters separate in the future. Otherwise, it sounded like a provocation. Li Kai almost wept. This elder's rage was terrifying to him. He had a new understanding of how frightening Long Chen was. He was able to point and curse at this terrifying existence while surrounded by thousands of other powerful experts. That didn't require just bravery to do. The scarred magistrate barked, "Enunciate properly. Start your testimony. Tell us what happened from start to end." "On that day, Boss San told us to go out for training. He told us to eat more for breakfast and hone our weapons." Li Kai began to stumble through his testimony. "Get to the main point," ordered the magistrate. The swords had main points and some beast-piercing arrows. "But no others," said Li Kai, bewildered. Long Chen laughed. This fellow was so nervous that it was perfect. The magistrate was ashen with fury, but Li Kai's quivering appearance did not appear like he was playing with them, so the magistrate couldn't punish him. He couldn't bother to ask anything. The more questions he asked, the more nervous Li Kai became. On the other hand, the head judge simply listened without interjecting. Li Kai then spent a full hour explaining how Long Chen had brought them out, how they had trained, and how they had awoken and seen a volcanic eruption. "Isn't there a part missing in the middle?" The scarred elder had run into the iron nail known as Long Chen repeatedly. Now, it was the turn of the other magistrate. Miss Luo Bing can give the accounting for the missing portion. By having two viewpoints of testimony at the same time, the story will be even clearer, said Long Chen. Luo Bing nodded. She explained how she and her sister had gone out to search for the heavenly flame seed. She then explained how a traitor had sold them out and put them in desperate straits. She also told the others how Long Chen had come and saved them. This way, the portion that Li Kai and the others had missed was made up for. It could be considered a complete narration. Luo Bing stealthily glanced at Long Chen with admiration. His thinking actually ran so deep. Long Chen had intentionally had Li Kai tell his part before having Luo Bing make up for the spot that Li Kai hadn't been present. Long Chen knew that Luo Bing wasn't skilled at lying, and furthermore, in this situation, she didn't have the power to lie. If she was the one to tell the whole story, under that pressure, she wouldn't be able to conceal the part where Long Chen had told them about how he had conned Chu Kuang. However, since it was separate parts, with her only having to talk about one part, not only was the whole matter narrated perfectly, but the secret was coincidentally avoided as well. Long Chen's calculations were truly stunning. After Luo Bing's testimony, everything was seamless with no flaw. Furthermore, almost everyone knew of the Chu and Luo families' enmity. The Academy's rules only limited people within the Academy, so they couldn't manage the grudges that lay between the families of the disciples. As long as they made their moves outside of the jurisdiction of the Academy would rarely interfere in personal matters. However, this time things were too big. Hundreds of inner Academy disciples had died. If they didn't handle this, the entire Academy would be thrown into disorder. Chu Kuang, it's your turn to testify, said the scarred magistrate. Chu Kuang's body twitched, but other than blinking his eyes, he couldn't really move. Long Chen narrowed his eyes and instantly understood. This fellow was truly crafty. He actually used such a way to avoid having to testify. Just then, the scarred magistrate looked at the head judge. Chu Kuang's injuries are too severe to testify or defend himself. Why don't we postpone this matter before continuing our investigation? Chu Kuang's injuries are severe, and he cannot testify for himself. We can question him after he has recovered. But aren't some other people capable of speaking? Said the head judge. But the two of them are… Oh? The head judge suddenly stared down at the magistrate. The guilty parties can be differentiated by master and subordinate, big and small. Chu Kuang can temporarily not testify, but the other two are fine, correct? Could it be that because you're a member of the Chu family, you want to use your position for fraud? Long Chen was surprised. Originally, he had thought that these two magistrates had just been bought by the Chu family. But based on the head judge's words, this scarred elder was actually a member of the Chu family. No wonder Luo Bing said that the Chu family was deeply rooted in the academy. Such solid backing was truly tough. The scarred magistrate's expression sank. He coldly said, I Chu Huiran, have always acted fair and impartial. When have I ever abused my position for fraud? Head judge, with your status, there are some words that you can't randomly say. The head judge's words had clearly infuriated him. The truth was that the Discipline Institute was essentially run by him and the other magistrate. That was because the previous holder of the head judge position eventually ended up with a deviation in his chi technique, and in order to recuperate, he almost completely stopped managing matters in the Discipline Institute. Then out of nowhere, just a few years ago, a new head judge was appointed. Furthermore, it was someone viewed as extremely young for the position. He was also missing an arm. The two of them were extremely displeased by this appointment. Whether it was in terms of seniority or qualifications, both of them were superior to this one-armed youngster. However, they heard that he was appointed by the dean himself, so they didn't dare to do something. Fortunately, there was no conflict that arose from this matter. But after the new head judge appeared, their own authority was slowly suppressed. Furthermore, this head judge was a bit domineering, simply saying what he wanted and making it happen without giving the two of them a chance to discuss it. The two of them had started to grow unhappy with this situation, so they had secretly set up some hindrances for him. There was even a rumor that a year ago, there had been a large argument between them. The rumor said that the head judge even went to the dean, but it didn't seem as if anything had happened before it was settled. Afterward, this head judge did not appear again. The two of them assumed that he was dejected and started to bitterly cultivate. However, Long Chen's matter caused him to come back out. He was as domineering as ever, directly opening the first-grade trial hall before the two of them even received the word. It could be said that there was a certain estrangement between the head judge and the two magistrates. The head judge now finally had a chance to counterattack, so his words naturally weren't very polite. Yi Ming, step up, shouted the head judge. That Yi Ming hastily took the stand. Although he was a four-peak expert, he was pale with terror. Tell us what happened. Remember, you will only have one chance, ordered the head judge coldly. According to Yi Ming, he was the one who had accompanied Chu Kuang back to Crescent Moon Valley. He explained what had happened. Long Chen suddenly indicated that he wished to speak. If the judges assented, he could speak. Long Chen, what do you have to say? Asked the head judge. There is a hole in what he said. He testified that Chu Kuang wanted his protection, but he didn't know the goal. However, he was clearly wearing a mask when he came. That shows that he was afraid of being recognized, and he did not mention this in his testimony. There is no need to wear a mask to protect someone. Only someone doing some shady business would need to cover up their identity. Am I right? Long Chen looked at that four-peak expert. Yi Ming instantly began to sweat. The expressions of the two magistrates grew ugly. The head judge shouted, Yi Ming, did you hear what Long Chen said? He asked you what Chu Kuang told you he wanted you to do. Tell the truth. Yi Ming's body quivered. He was considering how to respond when the divine light of the two statues increased in intensity and fell on him. Yi Ming screamed as if his soul was pierced. If someone wanted to lie here, the statues would immediately sense it and ignite their souls. Thus, there was no way to lie here. I'll speak. Young Master Chu Kuang wanted me to kill people. He wanted Luo Bing, Luo Ning, and Long Chen dead. The four-peak expert's voice contained a sobbing tone, as well as terror. In front of the divine statue's power, he couldn't lie. However, by telling the truth, he had announced his own execution. The High Firmament Academy might allow disciples to fight amongst each other, but it definitely did not permit experts at the level of elders to participate, let alone actually kill disciples. The fighting between disciples was nothing more than a battle between cattle and sheep. Although avoiding any casualties at all was impossible, the scale was limited. However, if elders joined in, then that would be like releasing a tiger. There would be immense casualties. Fresh blood was always important in any place, so there had to be rules to protect those newcomers. For elders to abuse disciples was always forbidden. Chu Ishan, who told you to capture Long Chen and the others? What was the order? Demanded the head judge to the other four-peak elder. It was young Master Chu Kuang who ordered me to capture the disciples and kill Long Chen in the process, saying that he resisted fiercely and resulted in an accidental death. Chu Ishan lowered his head dispiritedly. He knew that there was no way to lie. Long Chen didn't react at all to this admittance of guilt. He had known his goal the instant they first clashed. It was due to this that Long Chen had thought of a trick to destroy the transportation formation and set off the alarm. He had to blow up this matter, or he would be killed. Mu Qingyun and the others' expressions changed. They were all enraged. They had thought that Chu Ishan was only trying to capture them. They hadn't expected him to be so sinister. Mu Qingyun suddenly recalled Long Chen's words to her about mercy. Kindness to an enemy was cruelty to her people. Just because something hadn't happened yet didn't mean that it wouldn't happen. Enemies were enemies. One slip-up could cause calamity. Chu Ishan was now confirming Long Chen's words. Thinking of how Chu Ishan had been so brazen as to attempt to kill Long Chen at the entrance to the academy, then what would have happened if Yi Ming had encountered them in Crescent Moon Valley? She cursed herself for her naivety. People were more evil than she imagined, and she actually had time to pity others? That was truly hopeless foolishness. Chu Ishan and Yi Ming were both ashen after testifying. The High Firmament Academy had plenty of laws and punishments, but there weren't many crimes punishable by the death penalty. However, being an elder-level expert and attempting to kill the Academy's disciples for personal reasons was one of those crimes. Although the two of them didn't succeed, they had clearly attempted to do so. Whether or not they succeeded, they would still be punished with the death penalty, and there was no room to argue. The High Firmament Academy protected its new disciples from elders killing them. Hence, the head judge announced the verdict in front of everyone. He directly took out the official document, and the two magistrates had no choice but to stamp it. There was no way for them to protect the two of them now that they were caught. These two four-peak experts were then bound by runic chains and dragged away. However, their death penalty wouldn't occur immediately. They were given a month of buffer time to say goodbye to their family. Once Yi Ming and Chu Ishan were dragged away, the head judge turned to Chu Kuang. Chu Kuang instantly tensed up. Chu Kuang, you're very smart to know how to take advantage of the holes in the High Firmament Academy's rules. You prepared your retreat in advance. However, because of you, hundreds of disciples died this time, and this responsibility is also on you. You must not only pay the compensation to the families of those fallen disciples, but you must also pay the fine to the academy. Other than that, you must serve a prison sentence in the bitter cold land, said the head judge expressionlessly. Chu Kuang was truly very crafty. In the past, he had never left any evidence to be used against him. Even if there was always someone to clean up after him. However, this time, he had fallen into Long Chen's hands. So many disciples had died. Hence, he not only had to pay a huge number of immortal crystals as a consequence, but there was also punishment. Although it could be said that it was just 3 years, it was 3 years of his golden cultivation time. Even a single month was precious. If he was imprisoned for 3 years, then even a genius would become a cripple. By the time he returned to the academy, wouldn't Luo Bing, Luo Ning, or Mu Qingyun be able to crush him with a single palm? Chu Kuang was finally afraid and looked at Chu Huairan. That was his only saving star. Chu Huairan's expression was gloomy. 2 of the Chu family's people had been given the penalty, so it could be considered the head judge's attack against them. He didn't have any mercy, nor did he give them any face. Originally, Chu Huairan had thought to leave the head judge some face, but the head judge refused to give him any. At first, it was possible to use some tricks of the court to slightly twist things. By invoking the right laws, the two of them wouldn't be executed. However, the head judge had taken charge and been completely direct just to put them in their place. Chu Huairan coldly said, "Head judge, have you forgotten? When it comes to compensation, if both sides can reach a common understanding, there is no dispute. The Academy has no authority to pursue blame in that case." Then, Chu Kuang's heaviest punishment would be reduced from 3 years to 1 year. Furthermore, he is severely injured and needs to recover. He still can't be imprisoned in his condition. As for the fine, the Chu family has many profitable businesses. There is no problem paying that fine. It can be considered subsidizing the Academy. Other than that, the divine competition begins next month. According to the Academy's laws, since this competition relates to the foundation of the entire Academy, even someone guilty can attend as long as they weren't given the death penalty. If he wins the competition, there will be a year-long trial on the battlefield. If he makes outstanding merits on the battlefield, he can be exempt from punishment. Chu Huairan was clearly protecting Chu Kuang. If the head judge wanted to punish Chu Kuang, he would have to act within the scope of the laws. Chu Huairan was definitely more familiar with these laws compared to the new head judge, so his voice was icily arrogant. The head judge smiled. "I'm aware of what you're saying, but that's a lot of hypotheticals. Don't be too confident in things that haven't occurred yet. Using your own words, what if Chu Kuang doesn't obtain victory? Haha, in this generation of disciples in the God Institute, who can match Chu Kuang? Longchen?" Chu Huairan suddenly laughed. Everyone looked at Longchen. Longchen then glanced at Chu Kuang and shook his head. "A piece of firewood really isn't a match for me." Then just wait. I announce the trial is over." Chu Huairan laughed and actually took the initiative over the head judge, waving his hand and leaving along with the other magistrate. Quite an uproar arose from that response. Chu Huairan had essentially publicly announced that he was going against the head judge. That was scandalous. Longchen also hadn't expected Chu Huairan to be so arrogant, so he was a bit angry. He suddenly saw Chu Kuang looking at him disdainfully. "What are you looking at?" The anger in his heart erupted, and Longchen immediately slapped him. Longchen slapped Chu Kuang in the face, sending him tumbling back. Chunks of his black flesh fell off his face, revealing some of his barely grown skin. "Longchen!" Chu Kuang was enraged. Longchen was so brazen as to attack him in front of everyone. Dozens of people surrounded them in an instant. There were even 4 peak experts in their midst, looking ready to kill. When Chu Huairan left, the head just also directly left. The spectators had only just started leaving when they saw Longchen slap Chu Kuang. They immediately sat back down to watch. "Longchen, you dare to attack me in the trial hall. I'm going to report this right now." "Just you wait," raged Chu Kuang. He was a genius that the Chu family had spent a huge amount of effort raising. No one had ever struck him like this. He had always been the one beating others. However, against Longchen he suffered repeated losses. He hated Longchen to the bone. Today he had slapped him once more in front of the majority of the Academy's distinguished people. Such a humiliation was worse than killing him. If it weren't for the fire poison preventing him from fighting, he would be trying to kill him. "Go ahead and report it. I'll also report that you managed to escape the court by acting like a dead dog, tricking everyone. Now you're acting like a wild dog randomly biting people. Your criminal charge isn't small, so go ahead and report it." "I'll await the good news here," said Longchen indifferently. Faking an injury in order to trick the court was definitely not a light accusation. Ignoring everything else, at the very least, 50 lashes of the fire whip would be unavoidable. Considering the current state of his body, 50 lashes of the fire whip would fully ignite the fire poison in his body, essentially crippling him. Chu Kuang gnashed his teeth furiously. His face twisted with rage. He spat out, "All right, Longchen. Remember that there is no rest until death between us. I'll make you regret coming to this world. I've heard that so often that my ears are tired of it. But even after so many years, I'm still living alive and well. But those who said that to me, well, it's so sad, but the grass on their graves has already grown high and tall. Long Chen walked right in front of Chu Kuang. Facing his furious appearance, Long Chen chortled, "I wasn't originally interested in the divine competition, but what was that bad person's name?" "It's Chu Huiren," interjected Li Kai. "Saying that you would definitely win has made me interested. I don't dislike arrogant people, but I very much mislike people who are even more arrogant than me, especially those who don't even have the ability to be arrogant. I've decided to play with you in the divine competition this time," said Long Chen. Long Chen was originally not interested in Chu Kuang at all. He was just some foolish child of a powerful family. However, today, Chu Huiren's arrogance had angered him. He also saw just how big the Chu family's influence was in the academy. If he wanted to grow here, he would need to make the Chu family submit, either by beating them into submission or pulling them out by the roots. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to cultivate in peace. Long Chen was clear on his own matters. To peacefully cultivate wasn't very possible for him. Since that was the case, why not play a bit bigger? He would use explosive power to pave the way in front of him. Hearing that Long Chen would participate in the divine competition, Mu Qingyun was delighted. She clenched her fists and hugged Zhong Ling and Zhong Xiu. Li Kai was also excited. With Long Chen present, they had nothing to fear. "Ah, good. Then let's meet at the divine competition. I'll show you my true power and how foolish you are to go against me." Chu Kuang laughed and turned around. As a result, he almost collapsed. With his injuries, his body wasn't able to move so agilely. If people weren't supporting him, he waddled like a dog pooping. People from the Chu family helped bring Chu Kuang away. The onlookers scattered mostly, but some remained to discuss things quietly. Perhaps they were simply reminiscing after not seeing each other for a long time, or perhaps they were discussing Long Chen. Long Chen and the others left in high spirits. The sky looked particularly blue. The air smelled particularly fresh. Chu Kuang had truly lost out this time. After being bullied by him for so long, they finally vented a bit. Furthermore, these people now looked at Long Chen like he was a god. His display during the trial had been marvelous. He even managed to curse a magistrate and make him lower his head. Just how amazing was that? "Boss San, when will we be as flashy as you?" asked Li Kai worshipfully. "Cultivate and read more. If you had spent the time that you previously wasted on reading instead, you would definitely be in a different state than right now," said Long Chen as he walked. "That's right, the books make the person. No wonder Boss San's temperament is so special. I need to work hard to catch up," declared one disciple. "Same. When you're all alone, you get caught up in your dreams. Last time when we went hunting, a girl slept on my shoulder, and I've already figured out the names of our future children," exclaimed another disciple. "I feel like I've been getting better luck with girls lately. Yesterday, I locked eyes with one and she didn't get bashful." "Give it up. Only someone as handsome as Boss San can make girls bashful when he looks at them. For you, they'd only get afraid." "No way." Long Chen's agreement to join the divine competition left the Unfettered Alliance's disciples so excited that they didn't even know how to express it. Their words came out in a jumbled mess. "Long Chen, our Immortal competition is also going to start soon. I have to go prepare for battle. My opponents are very powerful. We don't dare to be careless. Hopefully we can all win," said Luo Bing. The divine competition and the Immortal competition occurred at the same time, but the locations were different. As for the other institutes, their competition formats were completely different and held at different times. "Good luck." Long Chen nodded. "Long Chen, don't lose to that bastard Chu Kuang. Otherwise, I'll look down on you," said Luo Ning. "If I win, will you no longer look down on me?" asked Long Chen. "Hee, it depends on the situation," laughed Luo Ning, leaving with Luo Bing to return to the Immortal Institute. "Brother San, there's still a month left until the divine competition. Should we increase the pace of the training?" asked Mu Qingyun. "No, work and play should be balanced to get the best effect. Everyone, take a 3-day break. Don't do anything you need to do. Just do your best to relax as much as possible. 3 days later, we'll start our training again. Also, don't hand in the list for the competition yet. Leave it to the end," said Long Chen. Just as he was leaving, he clapped his forehead. Hand over your immortal crystals. The matter of Crescent Moon Valley shook the entire academy, and the fighting within the God Institute had gone from being secret to overt. The disputes between Long Chen and Chu Kuang, as well as the head judge and Chu Huiran, had all been exposed during this trial. Chu Kuang was someone famous within the entire academy. But Long Chen's fame had already eclipsed his in just 2 short months. Hence, the fighting between Chu Kuang and Long Chen became the most commonly discussed topic for the next few days. Many people were guessing just who was stronger. One was an expert with an immense background. He possessed innate talent, and countless resources had also been spent on him. The other was someone with an unclear background. He was a penniless newcomer who didn't walk the ordinary path, relying entirely on his own power to reveal the power of a lower world ascender. Many people knew of Chu Kuang's powerful family background, but now they were even more interested in Long Chen. As an ascender, he didn't bring anything worth a single coin to the immortal world. He hadn't even been able to pay the registration fee, instead becoming a worker, and with practically a cheat-level speed, he reached his current point in just a few short months. His fame and sharpness were unmatched. In comparison, Chu Kuang's accomplishments were nothing surprising. After all, he had such a huge background supporting him. His starting point was already higher than everyone else's, so his accomplishments were natural. However, when Long Chen joined the academy, Chu Kuang seemed to have met his nemesis. He was completely suppressed by Long Chen, repeatedly losing out to him. This time, too many disciples had died in Crescent Moon Valley. Not only were 2 four-peak experts sentenced to death, but Chu Kuang also had to arrange compensation for the families of the dead. If those families were unsatisfied with their compensation and requested a further investigation from the academy, then Chu Kuang would have to face even greater punishment. It was rumored that the Chu family had spent hundreds of millions of immortal crystals to placate those families. That was just immortal crystals. There were also valuable weapons, medicinal pills, and other treasures. It could be said to be such a price that even the Chu family with its large business network felt some pain. Other than the compensation to the families, there was also the High Firmament Academy's fine. It was just that no one knew how big this fine was. But it had to be a frightening number. Damn, money really is the first requirement for cultivation. When Long Chen heard this news, he was so envious that he salivated. What he was lacking right now was precisely money. Long Chen had borrowed money from Mu Qingyun and the rest of the Unfettered Alliance's disciples in order to obtain just over 8 million immortal crystals. He then brought this money to the Pill Institute and bought over 3,000 spirit medicines. These spirit medicines were all alive and rather valuable. Moreover, they weren't easy to grow. Just those spirit medicines cost him 2 million immortal crystals, paining him immensely. But there was no way around it. If he wanted to advance, he needed to spend money. He then spent 3 million immortal crystals to buy a pill furnace that had reached the level of a spirit item. His heart was bleeding. In the academy, money wasn't easy to earn, but spending it was far too easy. In the blink of an eye, 5 million immortal crystals flew away, but Long Chen didn't dare to spend the remaining 3 million. He then returned to his abode and took out his newly bought pill furnace. Long Chen sent a wisp of fire into the pill furnace, slowly lighting up the pill furnace's runes. Spiritual qi started to naturally flow into it. As expected, cheap stuff isn't good quality, and good quality isn't cheap. Long Chen felt a bit better when he saw how powerful it was. At least, this spending was worth it. Long Chen reached out with his spiritual strength. There were some weak spiritual fluctuations from the pill furnace, but they were unclear and unable to form an effective connection with Long Chen. A spirit item. An item possessing its own soul and will. In the immortal world, all the laws were different, so for a weapon to give rise to a spirit was extremely difficult. It was said that forging masters could forge thousands and thousands of swords before succeeding in giving rise to a true spirit item. As for the other swords, they could be considered incomplete items. These incomplete items were lacking innately. Although they could help their masters a bit, their power was limited. That was why true spirit items were extremely expensive, and a pill furnace that had reached this level was even more precious. This pill furnace possessed a healthy item spirit, but compared to weapons, a pill furnace was different. Its spirituality was still extremely low, and it needed to constantly refine pills in order to raise its spirituality. This pill furnace was newly forged, which was why it was only 3 million immortal crystals. If it was experienced and its item spirit was fully activated, its price would be 10 times greater, or perhaps even more. Thus, if someone was using a pill furnace properly, it would not devalue and actually increase in value. The better it was used, the more valuable it became. The reason why Long Chen bought a new one was because he couldn't afford an older one that was experienced. Furthermore, he had a very brazen idea. Long Chen took out another pill furnace. This pill furnace was the moon and star refining furnace he had used on the Martial Heaven continent. But right now, its runes were dark and dull. It was like it was dead. Long Chen then pressed his hand against the moon and star refining furnace. Specks of light began to appear in his hand. This was the item spirit of the moon and star refining furnace. After arriving in the immortal world, it had been suppressed into a seed. It was unable to merge with the laws here and had entered a state of deep slumber. If it remained in this state, then it wouldn't be more than a few years before it was erased by the immortal world's laws, wiped out of existence for eternity. After extracting its item spirit, the moon and star refining furnace instantly shattered before turning into ash. The moon and star refining furnace was an item from the mortal world, so its runes were not recognized by the immortal world. Its item spirit could not function here. Hence, Long Chen slowly sent its item spirit into the new pill furnace. He then encapsulated it with his spiritual strength, merging it with this new pill furnace's item spirit. The new pill furnace still hadn't recognized a master, so it could be considered a pure and empty spirit. It quickly merged with the moon and star refining furnace's item spirit. After an incense stick's worth of time, the pill furnace slowly began to shine. Long Chen smiled. "Moon refiner, you're finally awake." Long Chen's voice was full of emotion. These spiritual fluctuations were all too familiar to him. It was no longer in its original body, but it was the same soul. Those spiritual fluctuations were extremely weak. Moon Refiner had just merged into its new body. It was extremely weak and only able to reply with very simple thoughts. However, that response was enough. Long Chen waved his hand, causing flames to soar within the pill furnace. It gradually warmed up, and its rune also slowly grew brighter. "Hee Moon Refiner, Hua Long, we're together again. Let's see if we can refine a good furnace of pills," said Long Chen, his eyes shining with anticipation. With the help of the moon and star refining furnace, he could quicken his pace on his cultivation path. Dragon Heart Grass, Ape Scarlet Flower, Blazing Fire Chrysanthemum. Long Chen refined one precious medicinal ingredient after another into medicinal powder. These were ones that he had just bought. He had already planted them in the primal chaos space and obtained many new harvests of them. More and more of the pill furnace's runes lit up. Although the moon and star refining furnace's item spirit was unable to communicate that well with Long Chen, it still had its tremendous alchemy experience. Furthermore, in the mortal world, it had worked together with Long Chen and Hua Long to refine pills constantly, so everyone was extremely familiar with each other's spiritual fluctuations. Their movements were easy and effortless. A furnace of pills quickly reached the final phase of refining, and it took less than half an incense stick's worth of time. Long Chen was delighted. Hua Long had completely devoured the power of the heavenly flame seed, gaining the power of the scarlet spirit flame. Because the scarlet spirit flame was still sprouting and hadn't awakened its consciousness, it was very easy for Hua Long to devour it. Furthermore, Hua Long was absorbing the energy of the companion or every day to increase its power. It already possessed its own consciousness, so it knew to take the initiative with absorbing that energy instead of passively absorbing it. Hua Long's power was growing with each passing day. Its growth rate was astonishing. For it to now refine pills with Long Chen, everything was easy. The medicinal powders no longer had so many impurities. Furthermore, the cooperation with the moon and star refining furnace was easy and familiar. Rumbling sounds began to ring out within the pill furnace as the pills smashed around inside. Long Chen's smile grew. The greater the movements, the greater the quality of these pills. The pill furnace quickly returned to calm as the refinement was finished. After that, Long Chen opened the lid, and a current of warmth blew out. 9 pills lay inside the furnace like balls of colored glass, and light flowed out of the furnace, turning the room into a wonderland. The immortal world's medicinal pills are graded just like the mortal world. Low grade, middle grade, high grade, top grade, and peerless grade. However, here, top grade pills will be affected by the heavenly Daos and branded by their mark, their blessing. If the blessing takes the form of a star, they are called pill stars. The elders of the Pill Institute are given titles based on the pill stars that they can form. For example, the 7-star elder can refine a top-grade pill with 7 stars. As for me, I'm still unable to refine even a single star. I'm still very lacking, Long Chen muttered to himself as he examined the pills that he had refined. Long Chen then consumed one of these pills. It was a mortal ascension pill. After a while, he felt like a volcano was exploding in his body, and the immense power surged throughout him, flowing so fast that it rumbled. Long Chen took off his clothes. He found that beads of sweat had appeared all over him, and these small beads of sweat all had a disgusting stench. My mortal chi is being forced out so quickly. These top-grade mortal ascension pills are 1,000 times more effective than the pills I refined before. Like this, I'll be able to fully expel my mortal chi within a month and condense a divine flame seed. Chu Kuang? I know your foundation. In a month, let's see just whose trump cards are stronger. I'll also get a look at how deep the foundation of a family with tens of thousands of years of history is. Long Chen clenched his fist. Continue. With his experience of the first refinement, the next refinement went even easier. After 10 refinements, Long Chen could clearly feel that the power of the moon and star refining furnace had increased slightly. Refining pills was the fastest way for a pill furnace's item spirit to grow. The more pills that were refined, the higher their quality and the more effective the pill furnace became. Within a single incense stick's worth of time, Long Chen could refine 8 furnaces of pills. Once he had refined over 60 furnaces of pills, his spiritual strength began to run out. So he quickly refined a furnace of soul-nourishing pills. An hour later, his spiritual strength was fully recovered, and he continued refining. With the next furnace of pills, he was shocked to find a star image appearing on the pills. A 1-star top-grade pill. Long Chen was delighted. He hadn't gotten stronger, nor had Hualong, but he had still refined a 1-star top-grade pill. That could only mean that the moon and star refining furnace had gotten stronger. Based on the Pill Institute's reward system, disciples get a 10 million immortal crystal reward for refining a 1-star top-grade pill, and they will have their name recorded in the list of geniuses. Long Chen hesitated but shook his head. 10 million immortal crystals was an unimaginable amount to him right now, but he didn't urgently need money at this exact moment. He already had everything he needed to refine good pills for himself, and he didn't want to become a fat pig to be slaughtered. Quietly growing and accumulating riches in silence was better. Long Chen gave up the thought of that reward and calmly refined pills. He then spent a whole day refining over 3,000 pills. Amongst them were over 30 that had reached the 1-star top-grade level. Such a crazy refinement severely taxed his mental energy. As he had a splitting headache, he quickly fell asleep. After sleeping for half a day, Long Chen once more refined 2 furnaces of pills. Then he had the moon and star refining furnace and Hualong try refining pills by themselves in the primal chaos space. The moon and star refining furnace had accumulated a certain amount of power after so many refinements. However, this way, they needed to stop and rest after every 2 furnaces of pills. Furthermore, the better refinements resulted in top-grade pills, but the worse ones resulted in high-grade pills. There were no more 1-star top-grade pills like when Long Chen refined with them. However, Long Chen didn't mind. If the moon and star refining furnace could refine pills on its own, then that could be considered its own kind of cultivation. In any case, the primal chaos space was filled with countless precious medicinal ingredients. It could refine as many as it wanted, and Long Chen could focus on what else he needed to do. Long Chen started devouring mortal ascension pills to the point that his body was almost unable to bear the amount of power. Only then did he stop. If someone else devoured as many pills as him, their body would instantly explode. But Long Chen only needed a break of a few hours before continuing. While he rested, he ran over to the Divine Scripture Pavilion. This time, he took a look at their divine abilities and battle skills. As he expected, there was a veritable sea of cultivation techniques and other abilities for the divine cultivation path. They were endless. Long Chen was searching for a technique that looked similar to the 9-star hegemon body art. It would be best if the manifestation that appeared when he went all out was similar. That way, it could cover up that he was a 9-star heir, and he wouldn't need to hold himself back when fighting. This is too much. I can only go bookshelf by bookshelf. Long Chen had no way to look through them one book at a time. He could only do as he did before and look through the entire shelves. Instructor Long Chen, that's not a good idea. Learning so many cultivation techniques and secret arts will damage your Tao foundation and Yuan spirit, said a disciple who was perusing the shelves as well. All these disciples recognized him. Hearing that he wanted to attempt such a thing, this disciple turned pale and hastily tried to stop him. Instructor Long Chen, many of these techniques have contradictory natures. Absorbing them at the same time will result in fiercer clashing and can easily result in a heart devil, said another disciple. There's such a thing? Asked Long Chen. Yes, it's absolutely true. That disciple nodded. Long Chen suddenly had a thought. It seems that you two have come here quite a bit. Do you know if there's a kind of cultivation technique that causes a large ring of light to appear when used? One that looks very flashy? Yes. Both those disciples nodded in unison. Instructor Long Chen, take a look at this secret art. Is this what you're looking for? The two disciples brought Long Chen to an extremely remote corner. From a pile of tattered books, they pulled out one that was missing a whole piece. Long Chen looked. Tortoise shell divine shield? When fighting others, you carry a giant tortoise shell? Are you trying to piss me off? Raged Long Chen. But it really is very round. You can take a look. The disciples were embarrassed. One of them sent their spiritual strength inside of the tome. A blurry image then appeared on top of the book. It had a very round tortoise shell on its back. It raised a hand, and a tortoise shell also appeared there. After that, the front and back closed seamlessly, becoming a perfectly spherical shield. Instructor Long Chen, this place has many ancient tomes, and due to a lack of maintenance, they are missing portions. The Academy doesn't have the power to restore them, so they are temporarily stored here so that they can be restored in the future. However, these are tomes recording techniques that are almost completely out of use. Some have the beginning but no end. Some have the end but no beginning. Some don't even have the center portion. However, a small number of people are capable of making a name out of themselves from just the starting portion. If it's not a foundational cultivation technique, you can still peruse and use them, said one of the disciples. Long Chen grabbed the book and sent his spiritual strength in. The technique to circulate his blood qi quickly then appeared in his mind. It wasn't difficult. It was a purely defensive technique with a portion missing. If he used it to cover up his divine star and star diagram, well, it wasn't impossible, but it was truly hard to bear carrying a tortoise shell around. In the end, Long Chen simply thanked them and sent them on their way. After that, he flipped through the tomes himself, seeing if there was something useful he could find. If he couldn't, then he would go back to his plan of going through them one bookshelf at a time. He felt that his powerful spiritual strength should be able to bear the impact. As he flipped through these damaged tomes, an image would appear in his mind whenever his spiritual strength entered one, displaying the technique's form and name. Some were very unclear, proving how damaged they were. Some were so badly damaged that they were useless. These were ancient records, so they would be perfect for Long Chen. If he could find an ancient technique that very few people recognized, he would be able to slip through other people's scrutiny easier. After 2 hours, he was practically drowning. His temper was starting to flare, and he was preparing to leave when one particular tome beneath his feet flickered ever so slightly. A ring of light then appeared on top of it. Surprised, Long Chen picked it up and sent his spiritual strength inside. A ring of light appeared in his mind. This ring had 7 colors. 7 Supreme Yang Technique? Ah, I've found it. Long Chen was ecstatic. The divine ring of this technique was incredibly similar to his divine ring. However, it had 7 colors, while Long Chen's had 6 colors. Long Chen closely examined it. This was a technique from the ancient era. Back then, it was the core treasure of the 7 Supreme Gate. The 7 Supreme Gate had been extremely famous back in the ancient era, with an inheritance stretching back almost 30,000 years. However, due to how long ago it was, much of the history had already become a legend. The 7 Supreme Yang technique was also lost in the flow of history. This technique was based on 7 kinds of energy: metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, and lightning. In order to use this technique, a person had to possess all these 7 kinds of energy. When people were born, they were born with innate talent. But if it wasn't discovered, it would be concealed. Perhaps if other attributes were too strong, some weaker attributes would manifest. However, the 7 Supreme Yang technique would draw out all those 7 kinds of energy and turn them into seeds to nourish. After that, 7 acupuncture points were opened for the 7 seeds to grow. That way, a person would come to possess 7 kinds of different energy. An ordinary person would definitely face contradicting flows of energy with 7 seeds of energy. That would turn a genius into a cripple. But the creator of the 7 Supreme Yang technique blazed an entirely new kind of cultivation path, making those 7 forms of energy form a mysterious formation inside the body. When it was activated, 6 forms of energy became fuel for only one kind of energy. When those streams of power merged, their power was astonishing. However, regretfully, this technique was now incomplete. The important method of how to transfer the streams of energy had been lost, and only some profound diagrams were left behind. No one was able to rebuild this technique from those fragments, thus, this tome had been thrown in here. When Long Chen looked at it, he instantly recognized it to be a simpler version of the 9-star hegemon body art. It was easy to understand. However, he had no choice but to admit that the creator of this technique truly possessed great wisdom and intelligence. Long Chen memorized it. It wasn't something very difficult. The divine ring can be covered up with this. Now I'll need something that imitates the 6-star battle armor. Long Chen continued flipping through the books, but even after going through all of them, he didn't find anything suitable. He began going through the bookshelves. Just as those disciples said, it was far more difficult than memorizing the previous bookshelves he had gone through. Even after going through dozens of shelves and eating 7 pills to recover his spiritual strength faster, he didn't find anything suitable. It had been a whole day by now. Other than the 7 Supreme Yang technique, he didn't gain anything. The God Institute's cultivation techniques were all based on divine abilities to activate one's power, summoning a manifestation that caused heaven and earth's power to support oneself. However, most of them didn't cause a manifestation that appeared outside of the body. Most were inside of the body. I might spend a whole month like this without finding what I want. I should take a look at the Immortal Institute. Long Chen left the Divine Scripture Pavilion and took a transportation formation. When he appeared in the Immortal Institute, quite a few disciples stared at him in shock. It was very rare for disciples of these 2 opposing institutes to set foot into enemy territory. However, Long Chen's fame was known even within the Immortal Institute. His black robes were far too conspicuous. Long Chen, what have you come to the Immortal Institute for? We do not welcome you here. Long Chen eyed the speaker, and the latter looked to be the very picture of a spoiled brat. Presumably, he came from the faction opposing Luo Bing and Luo Ning, or he wouldn't have spoken to him like this. If you don't want to die, scram. If you do want to die, come over here. Long Chen, do you think that this place is the God Institute? Do you think you can bully the Immortal Institute? Immortals, A dog of the God Institute had come to act arrogant in front of our Immortal Institute. That disciple suddenly shouted loudly, "Courting death!" Long Chen shot forward like an arrow. That disciple turned to flee, but he had barely taken a step before Long Chen grabbed his throat. A rain of slaps then pelted his face. That person screamed like a pig being slaughtered. Long Chen slapped him 36 times in a row, but he was so fast that it sounded like a single slap. As a result, that person's face swelled up like a pig's, and a pretty white face instantly became a pig head. His face was purple and looked like it might explode. Long Chen was instantly surrounded by disciples of the Immortal Institute. This was his first time in the Immortal Institute, and he was surprised to see that the Immortal Institute's people outnumbered the God Institute. He was instantly surrounded by 1,000 disciples. Long Chen, what are you doing? After running rampant in the God Institute, do you think you can do the same thing in the Immortal Institute? Do you think no one in the academy can put you in your place? They all recognized Long Chen. After all, the matter of Crescent Moon Valley had blown up, and the Immortal Institute Luo Bing and Luo Ning were also implicated. Long Chen, you're even more arrogant than the rumors. What? Do you plan on challenging the entire Immortal Institute on your own? This person was rather sinister, hiding amongst the crowd. Long Chen was originally going to explain himself, but seeing so many people targeting him, he narrowed his eyes. He didn't bother. Clearly, these people had intentionally come to cause trouble for him. Explaining would be meaningless, and it would only make the other side press harder. In his mind, he wondered about this situation. If Luo Bing was ranked first and Luo Ning was ranked 5th on their immortal rankings, shouldn't the forces that they controlled be very powerful? Why were none of their people standing out here? The crafty speaker's vision suddenly darkened as a figure smashed into him. That figure was the man whose face Long Chen had slapped into a pig's head. The two of them coughed up blood together when they crashed into each other. There was also the sound of bones breaking. The two of them then lay on the ground, moaning in pain and unable to get back up. If you want to play, let's play. Don't take your life as a joke. I, Boss Long San, am not some good person. Don't test my bottom line with your life unless you're prepared to lose it. I'm here to find Luo Bing and don't have time to waste on your idiocy. If anyone doesn't like it, Long Chen suddenly raised his status plate. Then I welcome you to challenge me to a life and death duel at any time. Even if you all come at me together, I will agree. When he mentioned the life and death duel, those disciples instantly shut their mouths. They dared to curse at others, but they didn't dare to bring out their lives. Other than beating and killing people, what else can you do? If you have that much ability, why don't you go challenge the dean? Sneered someone hiding in the crowd. His voice floated, making it impossible to pinpoint where it was coming from. Clearly, he was afraid of being caught by Long Chen, so he was hiding in the crowd. However, Long Chen sneered, only someone filled with a sense of inferiority would hide in the crowd to do shameful things. Slandering others lets you satisfy the darkness in your heart. That voice once more rang out. You talk like you're so superior. You little gigolo, you aren't skilled in other things, but those sisters Luo Bing and Luo Ning have probably been played with by you. Die. Long Chen suddenly roared thunderously, shaking everyone's ears and causing their vision to flicker. They almost collapsed. With this one roar, their souls almost fled from their bodies. They instantly turned pale. Suddenly, a sharp-mouthed monkey-faced man clenched his head in pain. His eyes were bulging as if they were going to explode. He was filled with terror and rolled on the ground, clutching his head, screaming. He had been the one hiding in the crowd, unleashing his voice with a special technique to cover his position. With this one roar, his soul was thrown into chaos. The disciples of the Immortal Institute were all terrified by that one shout, unable to make a sound. Long Chen, why have you come here? Just at this moment, Luo Bing and Luo Ning came over with a group of people. They jumped in shock when they saw the situation. At the same time, disciples wearing law enforcement robes walked over. But when they saw Long Chen, they almost cried and left. That was a Yama king that couldn't be offended. Even the dean was someone he dared to joke about, and a magistrate was forced to bow and apologize to him during his trial. Even crazier, hundreds of Inner Academy disciples were killed, and 2 Four-Peak experts were executed because of him. But the person who caused all this was still living happily and freely. Now, who dared to provoke him? These law enforcement disciples didn't even know what to do. They just stood there silently and couldn't even bother to ask any questions. In any case, they couldn't manage this, so they had to wait for bigwigs to come. Very quickly, 2 elders of the Immortal Institute arrived. They saw Long Chen as well as the disciples lying on the ground. One of them pressed a finger against the forehead of the monkey-faced disciple and cried out in shock. "Soul lock heart interrogation art?" The elder furiously demanded. "Long Chen, what do you think you're doing?" "What do you think you're doing?" asked Long Chen. "You came to the Immortal Institute and injured our disciples, and now you dare to ask me what I'm doing?" raged the elder. "I came to the Immortal Institute to teach. It was your disciples who repeatedly provoked me with their curses, so I gave them a lesson. You ask me what I'm doing? Do I need to ask you for permission before giving lessons? Are all the Immortal Institute's disciples blind and deaf? When did I become a disciple of the Immortal Institute in their eyes? I have 2 statuses, one as a disciple of the Pill Institute and the other as an instructor of the God Institute. Let me ask you whether it is in the Pill Institute, the God Institute, the Immortal Institute, or any other institute. If a disciple insults an instructor for no reason, doesn't the instructor have the right to protect their own dignity?" sneered Long Chen. "You," the elder was stunned. The High Firmament Academy did not allow people to randomly insult its instructors. If they couldn't even protect the dignity of their instructors, how could they make the disciples take their lessons? A master must be revered. That was basic. Hence, Long Chen's words dumbfounded the disciples of the Immortal Institute. They had actually forgotten his status as an instructor. Now they had all been beaten for nothing. Furthermore, they would be punished for such a thing. Instructor Long Chen, they truly only have themselves to blame. "But this person's soul lock heart interrogation," said the elder. "That lock is his own. It has nothing to do with me. While he cursed me, he was only thinking of despicable things. My spiritual roar then drew out his heart devil. That is reasonable self-defense, so I did nothing wrong. This person's heart is dark, and he brought this trouble onto himself. As for his life or death, it has nothing to do with me," said Long Chen. He turned to the law enforcement disciples. "Bring away these outrageous brats who dare to insult an instructor. Hand them to the Discipline Institute. I want a satisfactory conclusion within 3 days." After saying that, he ignored them all and walked over to Luo Ning. "Let's go. I came to hold a class for you." Hold a class? Luo Bing instantly understood. If he was provoked on his way to teach, it would be fundamentally different than if he was provoked while just on a stroll. All right. Luo Bing didn't know why Long Chen had come here, but this wasn't the place to discuss it. Hence, she then walked away with Long Chen. "Hold it." Suddenly, an extremely thin and tall person walked out of the crowd. Even his hands and feet were long like a stretched-out person. Long Chen couldn't help being startled when he looked at him. This person possessed a strange aura, and it was vaguely demonic. He is Gu Fei, ranked 2 on the Immortal rankings. He's extremely powerful. I haven't exchanged blows with him in half a year, but I can tell he's only grown stronger. I don't know if I can still beat him, whispered Luo Bing into Long Chen's ear. "So another person acting like the pig to eat the tiger," said Long Chen. "What?" Luo Bing and Luo Ning were shocked. They instantly thought of Chu Kuang. Was this Gu Fei the same? He was concealing his true power? Gu Fei walked out with a group of people and Long Chen eyed them. All of them had suppressed auras. Even from a distance, Long Chen could smell the scent of medicinal pills, so he shook his head inside. Luo Bing was probably going to lose the Immortal competition on her side. There were several fellows here whose auras were extremely powerful. They might be able to conceal it from others, but they couldn't conceal it from the senses of the 9-star hegemon body art. They were using medicinal pills to suppress their auras and make their opponents lower their guard. But when Luo Bing and the others confidently faced them in battle, they would unleash their full power and crush them in an instant. This would shatter Luo Bing's group mentally. If the other side took advantage of this moment to say some provoking words, they could even rattle their Dao hearts and give rise to a heart devil. Instructor Longchen, you said just now that you had two statuses. One is a Pill Institute disciple, while the other is an instructor of the God Institute. When the disciples provoke you, they must be punished. But you have publicly admitted that you will be joining the divine competition. If you are joining it, you are a disciple of the God Institute. For you to come here under the guise of your instructor status is shirking responsibility, don't you think? Said Gu Fei. Although he used a courteous tone, his gaze was filled with clear hostility. That's right. You're joining the divine competition, so you're a disciple of the God Institute. Yet you dare to bring out your instructor status to suppress others here. The God Institute's people grow more and more shameless. Sneered one of the disciples beside Gu Fei. After that, Long Chen's palm slapped across his face, causing such a giant explosive sound that everyone jumped. That disciple shot back like a cannonball, slamming into a giant stone pillar. Half his face was a bloody mess, but the thing that shocked everyone was that there were bone-like runes on top of that side of his face. Those runes were what blocked a portion of Long Chen's slap, otherwise, his head would have exploded. Blood Spirit Bone Armor. Luo Ning cried out in shock. How can he have trained in the Blood Spirit Bone Armor? Exclaimed the disciples beside Luo Ning. The Blood Spirit Bone Armor was a very famous defensive art inside of the Immortal Institute. Using blood essence and bone runes, one could freely activate a layer of defense. It was a practical technique, especially on battlefields where you had to exchange injuries. You might be able to defend freely with this one move, while your opponent would be killed. This slap had actually exposed the trump card of this disciple, stunning Luo Ning and the others. This person was nothing more than rank 26 on their rankings. He wasn't remarkable at all. Luo Bing couldn't even recall his name. However, such an unremarkable person had silently mastered such a powerful defensive art. Then the others? Luo Ning didn't dare to imagine it. Let me repeat myself. If you want to play, let's play. Don't think that you can play with your lives just because you have some blood spirit bone armor. Even if you had an undying Vajra body, I could still slap you to death. I said that I would participate in the divine competition, but the list hasn't been handed in yet. In other words, I am still not a disciple of the God Institute and am still an instructor. Whoever doesn't like it can step forward. Boss Long San has roamed the world for over 20 years and has specialized in medicine for all kinds of ailments. Gu Fei's expression sank. He had forgotten this point. If Long Chen hadn't made any official application to join the divine competition, then he still couldn't count as a disciple of the God Institute. Just at this moment, the disciple that Long Chen had slapped coughed up a mouthful of blood and slowly slid down the pillar, leaving a long bloody line. It was a somewhat alarming sight. Sorry to you too, I'm not intentionally provoking the Immortal Institute. But some people do things that make me feel bad if I don't give them a beating. Since I still have things to do, I'll take my leave. I'll treat you to a drink another day. Long Chen cupped his fists to the two elders who were awkwardly standing there. The two of them only replied in kind. Only then did Long Chen leave with Luo Bing and the others. Gu Fei stared at his back hatefully. This Long Chen is too arrogant. Someone helped the disciple that had been slapped, but the latter was already unconscious. The state of his face was quite frightening, and the person supporting him couldn't help shouting angrily. Long Chen, is it? Just wait. You will regret this. Gu Fei spat out some vicious words and turned to leave with his people. Hold it. You can bring him away but not the others. The law enforcement disciples stopped them. Gu Fei was actually planning on leaving with the others who had been injured this time as well. What? Are you not afraid of Alliance head Gu Fei finding trouble for you in the future? Cursed one of the disciples. That law enforcement disciple smiled. I'm afraid. How could I not be? But I'm even more afraid of Instructor Long Chen. He has said that these three must be sent to the Discipline Institute. We must send them, or we'd have failed in our duty. As for this brother, Instructor Longchen didn't say anything about him, so we won't bring him. If you stop us from taking them away, I'll shout for Instructor Longchen to come back. Decide whether you want us to bring away 3 people or 4 people. You're courting death, raged one of those disciples. The law enforcement disciples actually dared to act so tough in front of them today. That's enough. Suddenly, the 2 elders shouted coldly, "Everything will be done according to the rules. Do you think the 2 of us are nothing more than empty air? Don't think that your own little connections are enough for you to do whatever you please. I'd advise you to reserve yourselves a bit. Don't die like those inner academy disciples of the God Institute. At that time, your lives would simply be exchanged for immortal crystals." These disciples were actually ignoring the 2 of them, enraging them. Hence, after shouting at them, both of them left. Gu Fei could only watch as those law enforcement disciples carried away the 3 people that Long Chen had slapped. Although those 3 were not exactly trusted aides, it was still a slap to his face that he couldn't protect them, especially since it was in front of so many people. Long Chen, just wait. You will pay the price for your arrogance. Gu Fei clenched his teeth and led his people away. Long Chen, why have you suddenly come here? You didn't send us word ahead of time. If you had, things wouldn't have blown up like this, said Luo Bing. Luo Bing had set up a special method to communicate with Mu Qingyun. If Long Chen had simply messaged them through it beforehand, none of this would have happened. I'm not afraid of trouble. Time is pressing, and I came because I have something important to discuss. Today just so happens to be the day of the Immortal Institute Instructor exam. Use your connections to get me a spot, said Long Chen. You want to become an instructor of the Immortal Institute? Luo Bing couldn't believe her ears. What kind of time was it for Long Chen to waste time on this? Just hurry and arrange it. If I don't make it, I'll have to wait a month, said Long Chen. But the Immortal Institute's exam, just sign me up for now. Leave the rest to me, said Long Chen. Luo Bing helplessly sent someone to arrange this. The result was that they really were too late. The last spot had been taken. Fortunately, amongst them was one of Luo Bing's people, and that person gave up their spot to Long Chen. Long Chen, will you really be all right? You should know that the exam is completely different from the God Institutes, said Luo Bing worriedly. To me, these are all minor affairs. Isn't it just about control of spiritual strength and mental energy? As for hand seal techniques, I'm extremely familiar with them. Don't worry. As long as no one targets me, I guarantee that I'll pass. If there is someone targeting me, that would be even better. I'll beat them until I pass. Oh, it's starting, so I can't talk for now. I'm going in. Oh, you can give this to that brother as compensation. Long Chen tossed something to Luo Bing and rushed off. Luo Bing shook her head. Long Chen always acted mysteriously. She then looked at the thing that Long Chen had given her and suddenly jumped. A top-grade soul-nourishing pill? She couldn't believe her eyes. Long Chen had actually handed over a top-grade soul-nourishing pill? Such a thing was practically impossible to find. This kind of pill was often used by the Pill Institute's disciples, and most of them could only use low-grade pills. Using middle-grade pills would be luxurious, and those capable of using high-grade pills were definitely as rare as a phoenix feather or Qilin horn. Even Luo Bing only used middle-grade soul-nourishing pills. This top-grade soul-nourishing pill was something that she had only heard of but never seen. Such a pill was worth tens of thousands of immortal crystals. Who could afford to repeatedly use them? A top-grade soul-nourishing pill can not only nourish the soul all the way to its deepest core but also stimulate it to grow once more, strengthening the spiritual strength. Long Chen's quite generous, sighed Luo Bing. This fellow tosses it out like it is nothing, while others treat every single one as a treasure. Has this fellow suddenly struck gold? Or did he sell that heavenly flame seed? Guessed Luo Ning. Luo Bing handed the top-grade soul-nourishing pill to that disciple, but the latter directly said that he didn't want it. Luo Bing had no choice but to keep it for now. With everyone else, she went to the exam hall to await the results. Luo Ning whispered, "Big sister, do you think that Long Chen will pass?" Luo Bing shook her head. It's difficult to say. According to reason, The God Institute's exam should be focused on the essence and chi, as that's the foundation of using divine abilities, as well as their future development. But the Immortal Institute focuses on the chi and spirit. If the essence is too strong, it results in the chi growing while the spirit deteriorates. That's why the Immortal Institute's disciples mock the God Institute's disciples for being simple-headed, while they mock us for having weak bodies. Long Chen's body is like a wild dragon, and his blood chi is terrifying. He's clearly a genius of the God path. But such powerful chi and essence will definitely limit his spirit. I don't really think he has a high chance of passing. Furthermore, once the divine flame is ignited, the two follow completely different paths. I really can't understand why he would make such a fuss just to get into the Immortal Institute as an instructor. Just at this moment, the sound of a bell rang out. It resounded 3 times, stunning Luo Ning. What's going on? Isn't it just one ring of the bell when the trial ends? Did the ringer get hit in the head? 3 strikes represent that someone passed with full marks, said Luo Bing. Just at this moment, Long Chen and a group of people walked out. Long Chen had a pleasant smile. He then cupped his fists toward Luo Bing and the others. Thanks to everyone's blessing, I passed with full marks. Luo Bing's eyes widened. She couldn't believe it. But Long Chen was with the examiners and the disciples who had come to take the test, and they were all looking at him like he was a monster. Are we all fools? Big sister, we forgot that Long Chen is also a Pill Institute disciple. Luo Ning suddenly slapped her leg. Only then did Luo Bing recover and bitterly smile. That was right. He was a Pill Institute disciple. Without powerful spiritual strength and mental energy, how could he refine pills? Long Chen's essence, chi, and spirit are all so powerful? Isn't it said that the heavens are imperfect, and humans all have advantages and disadvantages? You can only have 2 of the 3 talents. How can Long Chen be so strong in all 3? Luo Bing stared at Long Chen's pleased smile with shock and bewilderment. Just at this moment, another group of people walked out of the hall, and the disciples cried out in shock. Heaven Master Dong Ming! Heavens, even Heaven Master Dong Ming has been disturbed. Heaven Master Dong Ming is the head of the Immortal Institute's 4 Heaven Masters. I heard that he hasn't revealed himself in over 10 years, but he's actually come out now. These disciples hastily bowed reverently toward this new group. Young friend Long Chen, this old man has been constantly hearing your stories for the past 2 months. You actually came to the Immortal Institute though. No matter what, I won't let you go. Yun Yang is far too stingy, requiring a whole trial just for a set of robes. This old man is far more magnanimous. There's no need for a trial. You can directly take your status plate. Heaven Master Dong Ming walked over to Long Chen with a bright smile. It was like he had discovered a treasure. Then many thanks, Senior. I'm extremely reverent. Long Chen also hadn't expected to disturb a heaven rank instructor the very first day he came to the Immortal Institute. Furthermore, this elder's eyes were clear and bright. His words fully matched his spiritual fluctuations. He was a direct and sincere person who said what he thought. You even dared to point and curse at the 3 bigwigs of the Discipline Institute. Do you think that I'll believe those words? Ah, little fellow, properly grow in my Immortal Institute. I'll give you the best benefits. To tell you the truth, last time I drank with Yun Yang, that fellow was so pleased that you fell into his hands that it irritated me. Little fellow, I won't beat around the bush. I'm happy you came to the Immortal Institute. At the very least, I won't have to see that old fellow Yun Yang show off in the future. If you encounter any difficulty in the Immortal Institute, you can come find me. As long as it's not against the Academy's laws or rules, this old man will definitely help you resolve it, promised Heaven Master Dong Ming. Long Chen suddenly came to an understanding. It seemed that Heaven Master Dong Ming was old friends with Heaven Master Yun Yang. Although his tone did contain a trace of competitiveness, Long Chen could also tell that Heaven Master Dong Ming only treated him so well due to Heaven Master Yun Yang. Many thanks. Then could this little one take a look at the Immortal Scripture Pavilion? Long Chen cupped his fists and directly got to his goal, the Immortal Scripture Pavilion. Inside the Immortal Scripture Pavilion, Long Chen found that the layout was exactly the same as in the Divine Scripture Pavilion. Most of the contents were even identical. Only the cultivation and secret art tomes were different. Heaven Master Dong Ming truly showed him special consideration. He directly gave Long Chen his instructor badge and even dispatched an elder who had been overseeing the pavilion for many years to help him. Originally, Long Chen had been thinking of having Luo Bing help him find a suitable immortal art, but with that elder present, he quickly found over 10 immortal arts related to astral energy. Falling Star Sword, Heavenly Star / Endless Stars Fall from the 9 Heavens. Long Chen looked through them one by one. None of these fit the 9-star He Gem Embody art. They couldn't conceal it. Long Chen could only ask the elder to help him look through the damaged tomes. However, the elder didn't find anything suitable there either. Long Chen couldn't help being disappointed. If he couldn't conceal the 9-star He Gem Embody art, he wouldn't be able to unleash his full power. Although he looked down on Chu Kuang, he had no choice but to admit that Chu Kuang was very powerful. He hid his power deeply. If Long Chen couldn't fully use all 6 stars, he really wasn't confident in being able to defeat Chu Kuang. There is one immortal art that is very similar to your specifications. This immortal art is called the Starry River of the Sky art. It was created by the Starry River Saint, and it is extremely domineering. It is said that 9 out of 10 people who train in it die. Although it does exist in the Immortal Institute, it is classified as a forbidden art, said the elder. Can I take a look at it? Asked Long Chen. It's a forbidden art. I need to ask for the Heaven Master's permission. Only once it passes through a certain process can I give you a real response, said the elder apologetically. Will that take a long time? Asked Long Chen. No, I'll go get in touch with the Heaven Master right now, said the elder. He directly left, leaving Long Chen alone. It truly was fast. In just an incense stick's worth of time, he returned with an ancient tome and handed it to Long Chen with a smile. Instructor Long Chen, you're truly lucky. The Heaven Master actually went to find the Institute head personally, gaining you the authority to take the first scroll of the Starry River of the Sky art. Long Chen was pleasantly surprised and moved by this. He hadn't expected Heaven Master Dong Ming to really be so helpful. Hence, he remembered this favor in his heart. Wait a moment, you said the first scroll? So this isn't the complete technique? Asked Long Chen. Yes. This is a very deep cultivation technique, and it has 3 scrolls. The first scroll might be considered to be only introductory, but it is shockingly difficult to grasp. Furthermore, training in it is fraught with dangers. Many people have spent a lifetime without being able to master it. If they rush and recklessly advance with it, they might end up instantly bedeviled or blown up. That's why the Heaven Master told me to explain all the pros and cons to you clearly, said the elder cautiously. After that, Long Chen's spiritual strength entered the ancient tome, and information poured into his head. When he understood the principle of this technique, he was delighted. The Starry River of the Sky art used the astral energy inside of the body to connect with the astral energy of the heavens, manifesting a formation that used the astral energy of the world. An ordinary person only had a single astral space inside of their body. With it as the seed, utilizing so much astral energy was truly very dangerous. Using the power of the soul to condense a formation and then using the astral space as a core to draw in the astral energy of the cosmos. If you were lacking spiritual strength, there was no way to do such a thing. However, if you drew in just slightly too much astral energy, it would cause the astral space inside of the body to explode. The cultivator would be directly blown up. Furthermore, when condensing the formation, the mind went on a mental journey outside of the heavens. It would be distracted by demons attempting to invade the soul. If a heart devil formed from this, the spiritual strength would go out of control. It wouldn't be a body explosion this time, but instead a soul ignition that burnt the soul away until there was nothing left. It could be said that it was an extremely unconventional technique. No one knew how the creator had managed to create such a thing. However, after creating it, he didn't leave behind a single disciple to carry on his legacy. It was because all his disciples died. Later on, this technique was recorded and spread widely. The Starry Sky Saint didn't wish for his life's work, this peerless immortal ability, to be forgotten just like that. Thus, this was no secret art. Many people knew of it, but all the large sects treated it as a forbidden technique that disciples were not allowed to practice. Throughout history, some geniuses had managed to cultivate this technique. They made astonishing advancements, sweeping through those in the same realm. However, in the middle of their cultivation, most of them died. No one was able to cultivate it to the later stages. That was why it was split into 3 scrolls. The first scroll could be studied by everyone, but the second and third scrolls couldn't be taken out for fear that people would be bedeviled and unable to extricate themselves, ending up with them losing their lives to the Yellow Springs. There were far too many cases of people dying miserable deaths while cultivating this technique. In comparison, the first scroll was dangerous, but the danger was at least limited. That was why Heaven Master Dong Ming could directly give Long Chen the first scroll. Long Chen studied it and sighed in admiration. The immortal world was filled with geniuses. Someone had actually managed to create such a refined technique. At this moment, Long Chen slowly formed hand seals, and tiny balls of light began to appear in his palm. Those balls of light were like specks of light. As his spiritual strength controlled things, those specks of light slowly grew brighter. This was the star diagram formation. After condensing the formation, he then sent his own astral space to the center of the formation, using his astral energy to draw in the astral energy of the heavens. The elder was surprised to see that Long Chen was able to easily condense the star diagram after just a read. He was truly a monster. Did he learn it with just a look? How was that possible? The small star diagram in Long Chen's hand moved like flowing sand, revolving within his hand absolutely naturally. At this moment, Long Chen's smile grew. When it came to controlling astral energy, who could compare to him? Ever since one of his 108,000 stars was crushed, his star diagram had come alive and contained the changes of millions of manifestations. The first scroll of the Starry River of the Sky art only contained a few simple changes that were far too easy for Long Chen. He circulated through them as easily as turning a hand. After memorizing the first scroll of the Starry River of the Sky art, he said his thanks to the elder and left. Luo Ning was already waiting for him at the exit. How was it? Did you find what you wanted? Asked Luo Ning. Yes. It's even better than what I expected. Let's go. I have good stuff for you and your big sister. Long Chen laughed delightedly. With the 7 Supreme Yang technique and the Starry River of the Sky art, he no longer needed to hold back. Chu Kuang, are you ready? Boss San hasn't gotten some proper exercise in a long time. Long Chen, you said you had something good for us? What is it? You can tell us now, right? Long Chen, Luo Bing, and Luo Ning were sitting in a private room. Luo Ning had asked Long Chen this question repeatedly on the way here, but he refused to say. That vexed her a lot, especially with her impatient nature. I remember that your Luo family has a kind of immortal path bloodline called the Violet Spirit's Sacred Blood. Is that correct? Asked Long Chen. Yes. Our Luo family has a special bloodline. Once activated, it can unleash limitless power. However, Luo Ning's expression grew helplessly. Long Chen smiled. The Violet Spirit's Sacred Blood's activation can be split into multiple steps. Right now, you haven't even activated the first step. Thus, unless you reach the point of no return, you don't dare to activate it in battle, as this will result in backlash with every activation. If it's light, your bloodline might regress, but a serious backlash will result in your spirit blood drying up. You might even die right there and then. Am I right? Luo Bing and Luo Ning nodded. These things were not secret. The Luo family's bloodline was special, and for Long Chen to be aware of this wasn't odd. Luo Bing, extend your hand, said Long Chen. Luo Bing stretched out her hand, but seeing Long Chen also reach out his hand, her expression grew unnatural. However, she still gave him her hand. Long Chen smiled. Don't worry, I would only use shameless methods against someone whose mind is full of dirty thoughts. For a kind person like you, how could I even think of taking advantage? He knew that Luo Bing had thought back to the trial hall when he had tricked Luo Ning into giving him her hand. Now Luo Bing didn't know if he was being serious or messing around again. "You're the one with dirty thoughts." Luo Ning glared at Long Chen, knowing that he was cursing her in a roundabout manner. Long Chen then pressed 3 fingers on Luo Bing's wrist, but not like a physician checking their patient's pulse. He was checking her bloodline fluctuations. In truth, placing the hand on the chest was the most direct method of doing this, but if Long Chen suggested such a thing, first ignoring whether or not Luo Bing would assent, Luo Ning would probably slash him directly. "Your bloodline power is very strong, and your bloodline is very pure. Why are you unable to activate it?" asked Long Chen curiously. Luo Bing's bloodline power was like a drawn bow. Immense power was contained within every fluctuation. Once it was released, its power would definitely be astonishing. For her to not activate this bloodline power, it was like trapping a young eagle in its egg. It was unable to grow past its first growth phase. "I need to return to the family to activate it with the divine pool's baptism." However, the Chu family's sinister plots have managed to cause some problems with the divine pool. Its holy water has become scarce and can only be given to those with the greatest talent. "I still have to wait a while until it's my turn. If I could activate my violet spirit's sacred blood, I wouldn't be in such a miserable state," said Luo Bing a bit helplessly. Long Chen now understood. So this was why there was such a gap between Luo Bing and Chu Kuang's combat power. It seemed that the Chu family was truly skillful at schemes. It was to the extent that the Luo family even had their foundation affected. Long Chen said, "I came precisely for this matter. I have a way to activate your violet spirit's sacred blood." "Impossible!" Luo Bing and Luo Ning exclaimed together. The requirements to activate the Luo family's bloodline were extremely special and specific. They needed the secret technique passed down from generation to generation. "I'm telling you that I can do it. I made 2 pills that can activate your bloodline." Long Chen took out 2 medicinal pills with divine light flowing within them. There was a star revolving inside of them according to a special rhythm. A 1-star top-grade pill? Someone who can refine a 1-star top-grade pill would be an elder in the Pill Institute. "Long Chen, how did you refine such a thing?" Luo Bing and Luo Ning couldn't believe their eyes. Long Chen solemnly said, "At this time, it seems that I no longer have to conceal my status. I'll tell you the truth. I originally wanted to just be a normal person, but you've also seen that even when I want to be low-key, my power doesn't permit it. I'm actually a reincarnated expert. In my past life, I was a sage of the Pill Tao and stood at the very peak of it. I refined all things within heaven and earth, the stars, the sun, and the moon. I roamed the 9 heavens and 10 lands, slaying endless demons, ghosts, monsters." "Cough, what are you 2 looking at me like that for? Are you doubting my words?" Even the dignified Luo Bing was looking at him disdainfully. Luo Ning said, "You misunderstand, we're not doubting your words. We don't believe them at all." Long Chen was bragging so wildly that it was simply nonsense. What reincarnated expert would act so ridiculously without the slightest mannerism of an expert? "Fine, if you don't believe me, whatever. In any case, these pills were refined by me. They are called the Blood-Merging Soul-Calling Pill. You won't find such a pill in the Pill Institute. I got the formula from an old man selling dogskin plaster medicine, and I traded 2 wine bottles and the bottom of a shoe to get it. Its origins are completely trustworthy, so don't worry. Luo Ning, you can eat it first and have Luo Bing protect you. I'll wait for you outside. If something bad happens, you can call me at any time." Long Chen walked out and closed the door. Now it was just Luo Bing and Luo Ning sitting inside the room. Luo Ning looked at the 2 pills. "Big sister, do you really think this thing can be consumed? That fellow's words are always puzzling. I don't know what is true and what is false. This Long Chen spouts nonsense for small things, but he hasn't messed around with major things. I trust that he won't trick us over this. I'll try it first." "You protect me," said Luo Bing. "No. I'll go first." Luo Ning didn't give Luo Bing a chance to argue. She directly consumed one of the 2 pills. As soon as it entered her throat, she shivered. It's cold. She felt like she had swallowed ice. The coldness spread throughout her whole body in an instant, and she felt like she was almost frozen. This coldness had just appeared when her almost frozen blood began to heat up. Following that, tremendous power exploded. Luo Ning's clothes were blown apart, and violet mist started coming out of her skin, covering her entire body. That violet mist then grew denser and denser until it condensed into violet strands in the air, slowly wrapping around her body. Bloodline condensing cocoon, brilliance reserved. Luo Bing stared in shock. Just what kind of pill had Long Chen given them? The highest grade bloodline spirit awakening phenomenon had appeared. Even if the Luo family's divine pool was fine, considering their talent, the two of them couldn't possibly enjoy the highest level bloodline spirit awakening. Suddenly, the cocoon around Luo Ning ignited and violet flames soared. After that, bloodline power pulsed throughout his body. Long Chen, just what kind of existence are you? Luo Bing was completely dumbfounded when she saw this phenomenon. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.